3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the Palais Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor, 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZachGelb. We got a whole lot to get to today. We'll do a ton of football. We'll get into the latest Daniel Jeremiah mock draft. We will get into a few choices between some quarterbacks that we will have a few hypothetical scenarios out there for you. Avonte Maddox of the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. He's going to stop by and join us coming up in an hour from now. So we're looking forward to that. But I got to start the show today with an article from Ross Dellinger. And he has sources telling him that the SEC and the Big Ten are building momentum to further expand the college football playoff. Now, we know that there is a new deal to be made by 2026. We just saw the first ever installment of a 12-team college football playoff. If I take you back to when this was originally announced, hand up, I was not a fan of expanding to 12 teams. I thought 4 was fine. I thought in most years when we looked at 4, we never at the end of it said, oh, this team got screwed, that team got screwed. But if you wanted a little buffer, I was okay with going to 6 or 8 teams at most. I was never okay with going to 12. Now, through most of the college football season, everything kind of broke the committee's way, and also everything kind of broke college football's way because there weren't a lot of great teams last year. And even when some of the teams at the top would start to get a big win, the following week they would fall, and then they would back it up with another loss shortly after that. So all the chaos that was out there and all the possible chaos did ensue, and it set it up for it to be a crazy wild chase to get into the final 12 teams. Do I think that's going to happen each and every year where we're going to be sitting there and we're going to be having heavy debates on who should be teams 10, 11, 12? No, I do not. But you know, because if you follow the money on this, further expansion is inevitable. Because the first step was going from 4 to 12. That's a huge leap. And do you think that's the last time, right, these conferences and people in college football were going to expand the playoff? And that was always my fear, is that the product would eventually get watered down. And I know, right, you could do whatever you want, tinker with football however you want, both college and the pros. We are addicted to football. Football is the greatest drug that this country has. It doesn't matter what you do. You put football on a screen, you will have people sitting down, placing their bets, ordering their wings, ordering their nachos, right? Placing their bets and drinking their beer as they sit there and they watch passionately their football team play. That's just a matter of the fact. But we've already had the noise brewing that 12 wasn't going to be the final expansion. And in this article yesterday by Ross, he talks about possibly 2 models, 14 teams or 16 teams. And here's the big catch in both of them. Regardless if it goes to 14 or 16, the SEC and the Big Ten, right, the major players in college football, the 2 preeminent conferences in college football, and right now, the Big Ten is a slightly better conference than the SEC. And that's not Zach, oh, you're anti-SEC. I love the SEC. But the last 2 national champions have come from the Big Ten, Michigan and Ohio State. Entering this past year, I thought the Big Ten and the SEC were on level playing ground. Now, after winning back-to-back years the national championship, yes, if you made me say who has the slightly better conference, it is the Big Ten over the SEC. And now we'll see if the SEC could snatch back that baton. Now, it doesn't mean there isn't a place for ACC teams. There's not a place for Big 12 teams, right? There is in this landscape of college football. But college football is run through the Big Ten and through the SEC. So regardless if they agree by 2026 for this new format to go to 14 or 16, the SEC and the Big Ten is swinging their you-know-whats around. All righty? And they're going to get rewarded, and they're going to get the preferential treatment that the 2 preeminent conferences deserve in college football, where they're going to get 4 automatic bids to the college football playoff, 4 to the SEC, and 4 to the Big Ten. Now, if we go with the 14-team format, this is how the structure would go. 4 to the SEC, 4 to the Big Ten, 2 guaranteed to the ACC, 2 guaranteed to the Big 12. So that accounts for 10 teams. Then you have 1 non-Power 5 conference champion. So this past year, right, it was Boise State. And then basically another spot available. And we all know this. If Notre Dame, who's not in a conference, they have a little affiliation with the ACC, but not a full-time member of a conference. If Notre Dame has 2 losses or fewer, they're going to get that other spot. So that's the way that the 14-team format would work. And in the 14-team format, there would be 2 bye spots. Now, if it goes to 16 teams, 4 SEC spots guaranteed, 4 Big Ten spots guaranteed, 2 ACC spots guaranteed, 2 Big 12 spots guaranteed, 1 Mountain Power 5 conference champion, and then there's 3 at-large spots. One of them, right, kind of feel like would be guaranteed for Notre Dame. But in the 16-team format, there would be no buys. So if you ask me, Zach, this is like once again asking a 3-year-old, what's your favorite vegetable? If you said, Zach, which one do you prefer, 14 or 16? I'm preferring 14 because I don't want to see the college football playoff expand anymore. So if you're telling me it's between 14 or 16, at least you get 2 bye spots. 14 teams is more than enough. I don't want to see this become 16 teams, and there would be no bye, by the way. So also, I think that could have taken a bye away without trying to get some advantage during the regular season and conference championships and all that. And that could change too. We'll get to that in just a second. I think that it could really hurt. And when I say that, I understand nothing actually hurts college football because it will always survive. But the way that I like to consume it, the way that I like to view it, and how awesome the regular season is, I do think that would take away from the regular season. But here's the interesting part to this. And this is another thing. This is very NBA-like, and I don't like it. You play an entire season. I don't need a play-in tournament, pretty much, to get into the college football playoff. But in this article, it's speculated that conference championship weekend could potentially significantly change. Where if the SEC and Big Ten get 4 spots guaranteed for those conferences in particular, you could potentially see whoever is 1 and 2 in the conference not actually play on conference championship weekend. And they would automatically be in because they're going to get 4 spots available. And then you could play 2 games that weekend per conference on conference championship weekend, where the 3rd team in the conference plays the 6th team, the winner goes to the college football playoff, and the 4th team plays the 5th team in that conference, SEC or Big Ten, and the winner goes to the college football playoff. You're doing way too much here. If you play 12 regular season games and you can't tell me when you have 4 spots guaranteed and you know that there's 14 or 16 teams that are getting in, right? And you have 4 spots guaranteed per SEC and Big Ten, I don't need that dog and pony show at the end of the season. And that's what makes college football so special. It's the regular season. The regular season is the best regular season that we have in sports. So why are we going to try to take away from that? And don't tell me, oh, but we're getting more access to the playoff. You've already given enough access to the playoff. We went when it used to be a computer decided who was 1 and 2, to then rankings decide who's going to be the 4 teams. And now we already took the drastic jump to 12. So now we're going to go to 14 or 16. And after playing 12 regular season games, we're not going to have a typical conference championship weekend where 1 would go up against 2 in the SEC or the Big Ten, and we would have 3 play 6 and 4 play 5. Like, imagine if the 3rd team is just on par with the 1st and 2nd team, and the 6th team stumbled a few times this year in the college football playoff, and the 6th team beat the 3rd team. They're going to go to the college football playoff? Isn't the objective to get the best 14 teams or 16 teams? I don't know if you necessarily get the best 14 or 16 teams this way. So I don't like that. Now, here's the one thing that I do potentially like, and it actually adds to the regular season. When we see the expansion to 14 or 16 teams, for years, right, people said in the SEC, well, when are you going to add a 9th SEC conference game? Right, that's been talked about. Now, you say you're the Big Bad Conference. The reason why they haven't done that is the SEC is usually the best conference in college football. I know it has been the last 2 years. And you don't want to schedule as many SEC games because you could have on any given Saturday a team in the SEC beat a top team in the SEC, and that could really significantly impact your season. But now with such a safety blanket already at 12, and it moving up and up and up by 2026 to either 14 or 16 teams, there was this nugget by Ross in the article. A 9th SEC conference game would then set in motion a scheduling agreement with the Big Ten, which itself already plays 9 league games, The scheduling agreement, though, still in the discussion stages, would pit SEC and Big Ten teams against one another in annual games to be sold as a separate television package. So there's always something here with the money. See, this is the first thing that I read that I go, okay, I'm in favor of. 14 or 16 teams, 2 thumbs down. 4 automatic bids to the SEC, 4 automatic bids to the Big Ten. I get it, right? They are the preeminent conferences in college football, but just find the best 12, 14, 16 teams that are out there. We don't really need all these assurances and all these guarantees. So 2 thumbs down there. You look at the conference championship weekend potential, having a 3 play the 6 of the SEC and a 4 play a 5 to figure out who your final 4 spots, your final 4 teams are that get automatic spots. 2 thumbs down. But in this case, if you tell me I could get every year SEC up against Big Ten, that's something I like. Because that means, right, you could see Texas against Ohio State, which you will see next year. But you could see those matchups, Alabama, Michigan, right? You could go through Oklahoma and USC. You could get, and I don't know how they would structure this and how they would schedule it, but you could get big SEC programs going up against big Big Ten programs. That's something I like. That's something with that guarantee, depending on how they structure it and how they schedule it. That's something that adds to the regular season. But here's what I would do if I'm running college football. And I've said this before, and this is going to sound really douchey. I will admit it. And it will sound like I have an enormous ego. And usually I would not say something like this. But in this sport in particular, I think I can say this. Because there's no leadership. And we know Chris Peterson, right? He said on this show he wouldn't be the commissioner of college football. Nick Saban has basically poo-pooed it in the past as well. No one wants to do that job. I would be more than happy to be the next commissioner of college football. No offense. Love my job here. If they come calling, Zach, you want to be the commissioner of college football? All righty. To infinity and beyond. I'm going to run the college football landscape. That would be awesome. And then I'd probably be begging for a job within 3 years back at this place, if we're just being honest. But here's what I would do. Now, I've already lost the battle, right? Of not expanding from 4. And if I was going to expand from 4, it'd only be 6 or 8. I would stay at 12 right now. I would not go to 14. I would not go to 16. And I would tell the SEC and the Big Ten, we aren't guaranteeing you spots outside of 1. If I had to budge and maybe give them 2 or 3, I'd be willing to do that. But I would keep this format that we have right now, where you get 5 conference champions that are guaranteed a spot. I would say, just because you're guaranteed a spot, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get a bye. Because right now you're guaranteed to get a bye. I would just say that you're guaranteed to be either in a bye or you get a home playoff game. So, let's say if you have a weak Big 12 champion, all right, I'm not giving you one of the top 4 seeds, but you will be a top 8 seed and you'll get a home playoff game. And I would keep the format the way that we currently have it. That's the only thing I think that needs to be tinkered with. Keep 12, but you do not need to be guaranteed a bye spot just because you win your conference championship. Because not all conferences are created equal. So that's what I would do. And I know someone would say, hey, but Zach, we should actually have the first 2 rounds all home games. I would agree with you. And I think if you get a bye, you should get a home game. But I'm not stupid here. There's a money component to this. And when you stay at 12 teams, you're not going to wait to get to your big bowl games like your Rose Bowl and your Sugar Bowl. There's too many of those big bowl games into the final 4 spots. That's why those big bowl games are on neutral sites. And now they start in that second round. And unfortunately, right, you get rewarded, right, getting a bye, but you don't get a home playoff game. So that's what I would do. I would basically do nothing. Keep it at 12. Don't go to 14. Don't go to 16. And the one small alteration that I would make is if you're one of those 5 conference champions that get in, you're not guaranteed a bye. You're just guaranteed a top 8 seed, which would at least get you a home playoff game if you don't get a bye spot. So what do you think the college football playoff should do? Or really, what do you think the SEC and the Big Ten should do? Because one way or another, it seems like, according to Ross Dellinger, that this is going to 14 or 16 teams. And if it's a 14-team format, it'd be 4 spots in the SEC, 4 spots to the Big Ten, 2 in the ACC, 2 to the Big 12, 1 non-Power 5, and then basically Notre Dame with 2 buys, only 2 buys. And if it goes to 16, 4 SEC, 4 Big 10, 2 ACC, 2 Big 12, 1 non-Power 5, and then 3 at-large spots with no buys. So if you said, Zach, you need to pick one of those, once again, to the toddler, what's your favorite vegetable? I would begrudgingly pick 14 because 14 to me is not larger than 16, but it's better than 16 in this case because the further and further you go, I think the regular season product outside of this SEC up against Big Ten caveat continues to get watered down. What say you on the potential college football playoff expansion? 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. A surprising development with Tee Higgins. We'll get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I was reading yesterday, because I think most of us just thought after the Bengals franchise tag Tee Higgins last year that he was going to hit the free agency market. Now, you know that they could franchise tag him twice, but you rarely do see that. Well, according to Tom Pelissero, the Bengals are focused on getting a long-term deal done with wide receiver Tee Higgins and hope a franchise tag won't be needed. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported on Monday. Pelissero added, though, if the parties can't come to an agreement before the March 4th deadline, the Bengals are considered likely to tag Higgins for a second straight year, which would cost $26.2 million. So I thought that Tee Higgins would hit the open market. It looks like that's not going to happen. But my question becomes, are they going to be able to get a deal done? And then if they don't get a deal done and Higgins is on the tag, are they going to trade him? Or are they going to basically hold Tee Higgins hostage for another season? And I know that could be kind of a strong remark, right, when you say it that way, because, hey, I would love to be held hostage for $26.2 million. But you know that Tee Higgins feels as if he could be a number one wide receiver in this league. In Cincinnati, he's not, because Jamar Chase is still there. And that's another contract they have to get figured out. We'll get to Jamar Chase in just a second. But I wonder how contentious of a situation this is going to be. Now, Stu, I don't know if you saw this, but I just thought that this was very interesting. Like Larry David, Tee Higgins' mother tweeted last night at 7:56 p.m. Now, this article by the NFL Network came out yesterday, right? And there was another report from the Bengals Sports Illustrated account that came out before, right, this tweet from Mama Higgins. She just tweeted out, "Selfish bastards." Now, you read that, Stu, and you would think that has to be something with, oh, they tagged him last year, now they're going to tag him again this year if they don't get a long-term deal done. Selfish bastards from Mama Higgins. That's what she's tweeting. Her words, not mine. You would think that's because of the contract, and that's her just voicing her disgust with what the Cincinnati Bengals are doing to her son, right?
Yeah, it has to be. Has to be, 100%.
So there's two comments. There's a lot of comments. But the first two comments that I see under this, someone responded, "I hate when the hibachi only gives me one yum yum sauce too." She replied, "Right, always making me mad." And then there was another account that says, "Nah, please tell me this ain't about the Bengals." She responded back, "It's not." So is this something about the hibachi? Did she have a bad hibachi experience? I don't know. But I'm intrigued. And I'm really curious, and I need to know the answer on this one. And another account, she responded one more thing. It said, "Mama has spoken. She's pissed." And she responded back, "No, I'm not." So was that just a little bit of a coinky-dink? that she tweeted out selfish bastards right when there was contract news or speculation about her son that wasn't very favorable for her son? Or did something go on in Mama Higgins' life? And I kind of hope that it was the latter, because that would be very funny if like T calls up his mother and goes, Mom, you're saying the organization that we're trying to get a long-term deal done so I could stay with Joe are a bunch of selfish bastards. And imagine Mama Higgins got that and she was like, wait, what? I didn't even know about that news. I just got annoyed because I was at the hibachi place and they didn't do the volcano tower for me. Oh, Tee Higgins' mother. I didn't know she had this game on social media. I did not. But now I'm on the edge of my seat. So the Bengals also don't only have to get the Tee Higgins deal done. And if they don't, there should be a few teams that should be interested in paying Tee Higgins whatever he wants. But if it's going to get to this point where it's a franchise tag, I think you have to at least know that you're going to be paying him long-term deal done at this point, because they've already went through a year of negotiations, right? Or a year of this at least being a contract issue. I don't know how much they're negotiating. But you would think for Tee Higgins, you know that if he hits the open market, he's going to get bare minimum $30 million a year. And it may be north of that. So the Bengals have to figure out how many guys that they could pay, because I like Tee Higgins a lot. Jamar Chase, though, is the better wide receiver. And Jamar Chase, he's now in the 5th year of his contract. So technically, if the Bengals wanted to play this game with Jamar Chase, they could, where he's on a 5th-year option this year, and then you could tag him for 2 more years. But I don't think Jamar Chase is going to be a good soldier here and be fine with that. If Jamar Chase had a contract issue last year, I don't think you're going to be able to keep on putting off and pushing off one of the best non-quarterbacks in the NFL and one of the most explosive playmakers in the NFL in Jamar Chase. And Jamar Chase, this contract's very easy. The Tee Higgins ones can be a little bit more complicated. Jamar Chase is very easy. Whatever the highest paid wide receiver in the league is, you got to top that by at least like $500,000 or $1 million more. It's that simple. But then you also have Trey Hendrickson, right? Because the Bengals didn't make the playoffs. They had a contract dispute with Tee Higgins. They have a contract dispute coming up with Jamar Chase. And then you also have Trey Hendrickson, who led the league in sacks this year, right? He had 2 years left on his deal going into this season, wanted a new deal, and he has 2 years left on this deal, now only 1 year left on his deal, and he just had a career season. And Trey Hendrickson, who's one of the better pass rushers in the league, he still feels underrated. You know, when we talk about Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons, we don't really talk about nationally Trey Hendrickson as one of the elite pass rushers in the NFL. But Trey Hendrickson, even when he was with the Saints, was a very good pass rusher. You look at his numbers from a sack perspective, and actually, I said a career year. It felt like a career year. It's back-to-back seasons with 17.5 sacks. He led the league in sacks this year. He didn't do so in 2023. But you look at his numbers since 2020, 13.5 sacks, 14 sacks, 8 sacks, 17.5, and 17.5. He has 77 sacks since entering the league. And the first 3 years of his career, 2 sacks, no sacks, 4.5 sacks. So this has been a guy that has been an underappreciated but really good damn pass rusher for a while. So you're going to have to pay almost, not exactly number 1 wide receiver money, but pretty close for Tee Higgins. You will definitely have to pay number 1 wide receiver money for Jamar Chase. And at this rate with Trey Hendrickson, who is 30 years old, it may not be a 5-year deal, right? But Trey Hendrickson, you got to pay him top pass rusher money as well. And you already paid Joe Burrow. So usually I'm a guy that says, hey, the salary cap in the NFL, it's kind of fugazi. How many times you hear this team is $200 million over the cap like the Saints for all those years, and you find a way to get the job done? But in this case, with how many top salaries there are, with Burrow already having one, Jamar Chase on the verge of getting one, Tee Higgins being pretty damn close, Trey Hendrickson, you got to imagine either will get one or be pretty damn close. Those are a lot of resources that are allocated, and the Bengals still have a lot of work to do. The Bengals' offensive line was a problem last year. You look at the defense was a problem, and a few years ago they lost a really great defensive player in Jesse Bates. And yes, Trey Hendrickson's been unbelievable the last 2 years in Cincinnati. However, the rest of that defense was hot garbage. Like Joe Burrow just led the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns the Bengals didn't even make the playoffs. So there's three things that I look at with the Bengals. How many contracts are they going to be able to get done with Tee Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Trey Hendrickson? One, I would imagine doesn't go the way that they think it's going to go. And I think they'll get Jamar Chase. I think that's the easiest one to do. You could slap the tag if you need to on Tee Higgins. But one of Higgins or Hendrickson, I feel like, is going to be unhappy. And I still circle back to it's probably going to be Higgins because I think the Hendrickson one will be easier to do than Tee Higgins. But it's clear that Joe Burrow is waving that magic wand in the Bengals organization, which is usually a cheap organization. And he already got his deal done. But he's basically saying, hey, Philly got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. The Dolphins have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Why can't we keep Jamar Chase and why can't we keep Tee Higgins? And you can't tell me that it doesn't work in this league. Paying big money to a quarterback and two big wide receiver money because the Eagles, who had the best team in the NFL, just won the Super Bowl. They had the most deep team in the NFL. But the Bengals, they usually like to pinch pennies. They didn't do so with Joe Burrow. And now you're in a situation where you can't afford to do with Hendrickson, Chase, and Higgins. But then what money will you have left to improve the rest of the team? Because I don't think Lou Anarumo, who was for years hyped up to be a really good defensive coordinator, I don't think he forgot how to coach all of a sudden. I know he's fired there now, but he was the person that got blamed for this season. They lost a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball in Cincinnati. So, yeah, you're going to have to pay these guys big, and you should pay all of them. But what type of team are you going to be able to build the rest of the way? Because here's the fact. The Bengals, even though it's a few years removed, they're the only team in the AFC to beat the Kansas City Chiefs when it matters, right? I know the Patriots did it, but that was with Brady and Belichick. Of the last few years, the Bengals are the only team to beat the Chiefs when it matters. And they're still a force, but the Cincinnati Bengals need to get off to better starts. They can't do this bull crap anymore where the first few games of the season doesn't matter because then it comes back to kill them at the end. They got to fix that offensive line, and also the defense has to find a way to get better. And, oh, yeah, by the way, you got to figure out Jamar Chase, who has 1 year left on his deal. You got to figure out Tee Higgins, who's probably going to get the tag slapped on him unless if you get a deal done by March 4th, and the tag deadline or the window to open to tag people starts today in about a half hour. And then, all right, even if you got Higgins and Jamar Chase taken care of, you also got to get Trey Hendrickson taken care of. So there's a lot to do with the Cincinnati Bengals. But still, if they could bring those guys back, find a way to allocate the dollars and move them around to their liking, you worry about how it catches up to you later because you still have a window right now where you could go compete with Kansas City. And if the Bengals are in the postseason, I know Buffalo's been close, right? The Ravens can't beat the Bills or the Chiefs when it matters, but the Ravens have been knocking on the door the last few years. The Bengals become a major player, maybe even the second team in the AFC if they do make the postseason. And that's the big thing. Because the Bengals have they don't have, I don't want to say they have the complete roster talent, but there's just something about them when they go up against the Chiefs. They've been the one consistent pain in the ass. At one point, had a 3-game win streak up against the Kansas City Chiefs for this team that outside of, the Bucks, the Patriots that one time, and then the Eagles, usually this time of the year, the Kansas City Chiefs win a lot of games. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. When we come on back, we'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We call that segment the News Brief. But first up with the latest Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash, here is the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And we start with a riddle sponsored by Progressive Insurance. What do your home and auto have in common? Progressive protects them both. It was an easy riddle. Learn more at Progressive.com. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is betting on himself. It worked for Juan Soto, and the 25-year-old Guerrero is the next player who could break the $500 million mark in free agency. He and the Blue Jays unable to come to terms on a long-term extension prior to his self-imposed deadline last night. Guerrero is a 4-time All-Star and said the two sides weren't close on a deal. While the NBA remains idle, we're right in the thick of the college basketball season. The NCAA tournament right around the corner. Michigan State, a perennial tournament team under Tom Izzo, and this year is no different. But with a couple of weeks to go, the Spartans find themselves in a fight for the Big Ten title. Tom Izzo's team is a game behind Michigan. The matchup against the Wolverines coming later this week. Tonight, they'll host Purdue, which is only a half game behind MSU, and coming off back-to-back losses are the Boilermakers. Second-ranked Florida goes for its fifth in a row tonight against Oklahoma. Team USA is adding Quinn Hughes to their roster as an emergency replacement should one of their players get injured. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
And the Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's player is USA goaltender Connor Hellebuyck in their 3-1 win against Canada on Saturday. Hellebuyck saved 25 out of 26 shots that came his way to propel the U.S. to the championship game on Thursday, where they were once again faced Canada. And in the moment, at the time, you didn't know if the USA was going to face Canada again. Then that got solidified and figured out yesterday. I'm a little nervous. I don't know about you, Stu, but to beat the Canadians twice at their own game is going to be tough. Now, USA Hockey is in a wonderful spot. I saw because of the injury that you did get Quinn Hughes get called up with McAvoy going down, but I'm now looking at this and I'm saying, all righty, I love beating the Canadians because we never beat the Canadians in my life. And now that they did, there was a great celebration going back to Saturday. And now it's one of those things where it's like, you got to beat them twice. And now you got to see them again. And I get it. It's in Boston. I understand that's going to be a raucous atmosphere. But it was also a raucous atmosphere in Canada when they were booing our national anthem, those Canadians. And then we kicked their ass and we beat them on their land. But now you know the Bostonians are going to be booing during the Canadian national anthem on Thursday night. And I hope that they don't provide a little payback. So I am worried here, Stu, as we head into this Thursday night game.
Yeah, I think beating them twice is going to be very hard to do. But they did it once, so you never know.
You know what? Great moments are born from great opportunities. And that's what you have here tonight, boys. That's what you've earned here tonight. I'm sick and tired of hearing what a great hockey team the Canadians have. Screw them! It's your time. I won't do the rest of the speech, but one of my favorite movies ever. And we altered it a little bit before someone tweets me, it wasn't the Canadians that beat the Soviets. Yes, I'm well aware on that. Anyway, without further ado, and I'm not talking about Freddie Adu, we will get to a little news brief.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Rob Gronkowski was on the Up at Adams show with Kay Adams, and he was discussing Travis Kelce's future.
I believe he can go at least another 2 years. The guy has 85 plus catches this year. We're talking about his stats are down. Are you kidding me? I just looked at him. 80 plus catches this year. How are your stats down if you have 80 plus catches at 35 years old? I think I've only had 80 plus catches one time in my career, and I was 22 years old. I had 90 catches that year. All the other years, I was like 50 to 70 catches. So like that 80 plus, I mean, he's the security blanket. He gets first downs whenever they need to. And if actually you watch him run routes, he is very crisp and very smooth with them as well. He's bending when he stops. You know, he's coming out of his breaks. It's just one of those years, the ball is just not going to be thrown to you in the end zone every single time. And they're winning games.
So in 2022, Travis Kelce had 110 catches for 1,338 yards and 12 touchdowns. From 2016 to 2022, he had 1,125 yards, 1,038, 1,336, 1,229, 1,416, 1,125, 1,338. And then the last 2 years, he has it at 1,000, but it's not as if he wasn't in the ballpark. 93 catches for 984 and 5 touchdowns in 2023 and 97 for 823 and 3 touchdowns this past season. So have the numbers taken a dip? Yes. Have they got to a point where it's like, oh, Travis Kelce is a bum? No. He's still really damn good, but it's kind of tricky because he's still putting up some good numbers. The regular season really doesn't matter for the Chiefs because it's either do you win the Super Bowl or do you not? And come playoff time, they need him to be healthy. And last year, he had an unbelievable postseason after a regular season that wasn't one of his best. This year, we thought he was going to have a great postseason. Up against the Texans, he was phenomenal. But then he was pretty much a no-show up against the Bills. And he was also a no-show up against the Eagles as the whole team was a no-show up against the Eagles. So it comes down to not if he could still play, where is he at mentally? And does he want to keep on playing? Because once you do the 1 foot in, 1 foot out, that's the beginning of the end to your career, and that's when you could hurt the team. And he sounded after the Super Bowl, and I give him right a grace period because right after a loss where they were trying to go for a three-peat and they got embarrassed, it sounded like he was 1 foot in, 1 foot out on the New Heights podcast. Let's go to Shedeur Sanders. Do the Shedeur Sanders. On his favorite Madden team, and it's a little prediction for the draft. Listen up.
Who you play with?
I don't even play Madden. I can play Madden.
You know who I play with.
See, I can play with anybody though. He can only play with one team.
What team?
Brown.
Okay.
That's the only team.
Okay. I like how they
getting ready.
I like how they move around, bro.
That's the only team he can play with.
That boy getting ready.
Anybody else is trash.
I like how they move around on there. I like the setup.
So he likes to play with the Browns. Stu, you're a big video gamer. I get it, in the video game, they have Nick Chubb, right? You got Deshaun Watson in the video game because he never plays on the field. You got Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore. The defense, you got Myles Garrett. If I was getting to pick a Madden team to play with, the Browns, here's a hot take, would not be in my top 5. I want a quarterback like Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. You know, I want some speed guys like a Saquon Barkley, a Tyreek Hill, a Justin Jefferson, a Christian McCaffrey. I'm not looking at those weapons on the Browns and being like, here we go, Brownies, here we go, and getting all excited about playing with the Cleveland Browns. I think there's a little something more to that, Stu. This is, I think, Shedeur Sanders realizing, and I keep on hearing whispers that Cam Ward may be going in front of me. So if Cam Ward goes to Tennessee, I kind of want to hype up the Cleveland Browns to then take me, knowing that in his back pocket he probably has the Giants, or he's already playing catch on the streets of New York City with Malik Neighbors. That's what that sounded like to me. Just Shedeur Sanders, who knows how to play the game, playing the game right there. And I'm not talking about Madden. Here is Lawrence Taylor. He was on Maintaining with Tyrus on Outkick on Micah Parsons. Wait, now, I don't know if this is positive or negative, but I'm curious what this is about, because when we talked to someone about Micah Parsons last, Warren Sapp, who's in the Hall of Fame, he walked off on us. So I wonder if this is positive or negative when the slug line is just Lawrence Taylor on Micah Parsons. Go ahead.
I don't think that anyone should be compared to you until they've been away from the game at least 20 years and still talk about it.
That sounds good too, but you know, and I guess you're talking about Michael Parsons. He's a great player, but guys, let's play more football and less podcasts. Okay?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm fine with that. Now, it's ironic that Lawrence Taylor, who doesn't play football anymore, but is arguably the greatest offensive player of all time, is on a podcast while he's saying, let's do more football, less podcasting. But I understand that's a criticism of Micah Parsons. He still plays, though, at a very high level. All righty, let's get to Emmanuel Acho on the facility with FS1. The Cowboys, he thinks they're close and could be kind of not that far away from the Eagles. Listen up.
Okay. The Cowboys are one Eagles offseason away from a Super Bowl. They are one Eagles offseason away.
That sounds easy.
They're a running. No, it's not easy.
Sounds simple.
It's not simple.
No, it sounds simple, though.
It's not, because you know how.
So let's take how he's done. It don't matter.
It's not easy at all. But that is what they are. Like, that's it. Now, the difference is, like Shady said, Howie Roseman is a genius.
Wait, keep going.
The Cowboys, they have Super Bowl caliber cornerbacks. I think they have Super Bowl caliber pass rushers. I think they have a Super Bowl caliber offensive line plus an additional addition. I think they have a Super Bowl caliber number one wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb. I think they have a Super Bowl caliber tight end in Jake Ferguson. So I think they have Super Bowl caliber players, but they are a running back, a defensive tackle, healthy linebacker play, an additional offensive lineman, and a number 2 wide receiver, I think, away from the Super Bowl. But that's an Eagles offseason.
Sounds like they need to be aggressive.
Yeah, remember when I interviewed Paige Spiranek? That comment that Emmanuel Acho just made, and then listing all those things that the Cowboys need would be like, after I met Paige, hey, I'm a 6-pack away, and I'm not talking about beers. I'm talking about my abs. I'm a 6-pack away from marrying Paige Spiranek. Like, what are we doing, Emmanuel Acho? He's just a hot take hack. That's what he is. That's ridiculous. They're an Eagles offseason away. So you know what? Every team is an Eagles offseason away. But their foundation with the offseason they just had was much better than the foundation the Cowboys have. The Cowboys line stinks. The Eagles offense has the offensive line is one of the best in the league, if not the best. And also, you've had guys that have been in a Super Bowl before. There's the Super Bowl a few years ago. The Cowboys haven't been into the Super Bowl since 1995. They haven't made an NFC Championship game since 1995. You know, I'm not wasting my breath anymore on Emmanuel Acho. I'm not. It doesn't bring me any joy anymore, wasting my breath with Emmanuel Acho. Here is Roy Williams with us yesterday. He defended Hubert Davis.
I used to say this about Roy Williams, that I had more desire and more want to in my little finger, more passion than all the Carolina fans put together. Hubert Davis may hold up his left hand because he writes left-handed, but he has more passion and more concern in his little finger than all those people put together. He's the right person for the job. It just makes me just cringe. I mean, why do people talk? His first year he played for the national championship. His third year he won the regular season. There's 811 teams in the ACC now, or something close to that. He won the regular season last year. And so we've had some tough moments this year. There's no question about that. But the season's not over. I think we're going to make a run here, and I would love for it to turn around 180 degrees so I could look at all those other suckers and tell them to shut up.
That's unbelievable. So that clip is blown up, and people are calling me a Hubert Davis apologist just because I allowed Roy Williams to say that on my show. I actually, when Hubert Davis got hired, didn't think he should have got the job at UNC. Just keeping score. But that's a question you got to ask Roy Williams if you're interviewing Roy Williams. And people go, well, what did you expect him to say? I've asked questions to coaches before that they have to answer it a certain way. They don't have that much passion towards it. And Roy basically made that hire. And that was very passionate. He could have just said, no, I still believe in Hubert Davis, and nothing would have happened. He went out of his way to make a point to kind of rub it into any of the detractors that are UNC fans that are questioning Hubert Davis. But I don't think it's unfair to question Hubert Davis. Yeah, he went to the championship game his first year. Then he missed the postseason, didn't make March Madness. Last year got to a Sweet 16. And then this upcoming year, he's probably going to miss the NCAA tournament again. Not definitely, but probably will. So it's fair to question it, but do I think he's going to get fired after this year? No, I do not. All righty, Avonte Maddox and the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles will join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. You know what? Looking back, we should have played some Big X the Plug going into this interview because I was at that after party for the Eagles, and I love Big X the Plug, but I got to see him live. He was unbelievable. And even Vic Fangio was getting down on stage, celebrating as Big X the Plug was rapping after the Eagles won their world championship, their second world championship, Super Bowl champions once again. As 2 weeks ago, right down in the Big Easy in New Orleans, they're able to just destroy the Kansas City Chiefs. And now joining us is a Super Bowl champion from the Philadelphia Eagles, and Avonte Maddox, who's kind enough to jump on board with us. Avonte, first off, congratulations. I would ask you how you're doing, but I'm sure you haven't come down from the Super Bowl high, right?
No, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm still hungover, actually.
Well, that parade, man, I'm just getting back to myself after being in New Orleans and I've had a whole week. You had a parade. That thing was crazy in Philadelphia.
It was crazy. It was crazy. It's like one of the craziest things I've ever seen, actually. So many people, millions probably.
So it died down afterwards, and I saw a photo from John Clark, who covers the team, and it was you and Saquon Barkley just sitting down and kind of taking it all in after all the mayhem did go down. What was that moment like, you and Saquon just sitting there kind of getting a moment probably to catch your breath and process everything that did go down?
No, it was good. It was just a moment for us to, we played against each other in college. So, it was a chance for me to, just sit back and realize what we did. And, I was just telling him I'm happy for him. And, being able to come here and be teammates for once is always on the opposite ball. He played at Penn State, I played at Pitt. He went to the Giants, I was here in Philly. So we always played against each other. And it was a chance for us to play our first year together and win the Super Bowl. It was a moment that you never couldn't ask for.
Is it still kind of surreal that he's on your team? Because I
It
still can't
is.
believe how that did go down. He's with the Giants, right? You guys are rivals. And then I remember when you guys played them in the playoff game, and Brandon Graham is like talking smack to Saquon, and that was unmiked up, and now he's an Eagle and he had one of the greatest rushing seasons we've ever seen. It's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, it's so surreal. I mean, like just having him on your team. I mean, just having him as a teammate, but knowing him as a person, and I've known him for a while. He's just a great person, and bringing someone into this organization that's like that. I mean, I'm happy for every accomplishment he got, and every accolade he had gotten in this year, and just being able to rush the most yards ever rushed in the season, and winning the Super Bowl. It was a great feeling, and I'm happy for him.
Now, I know when you play defense, right, you're on the sideline when Saquon's on the field, and you're supposed to be listening, right, to Vic from above.
Hey, I can finish this for you.
Yeah,
I don't
go ahead.
sit down. I do not sit down. My eyes are on the field 24/7 because I just know he's gonna do something crazy. And it's like I tell everyone that I know in my family, they're like, yeah, like what do you do like after like you guys come off the field? I say, well, we're supposed to be sitting down taking corrections, but you got somebody like 26 out there that got any time to get the ball and explode for a touchdown. I'm watching it.
And it's not just him, right? You got Jalen, you got AJ,
Oh,
you got
all of
Devontae
them,
Smith, the best offensive line in the league. You probably get mesmerized on that sideline
Oh
watching
no,
that.
definitely. I mean, I'm watching all of them guys. I mean, every time they're lining up, there's a play that can happen that could be a touchdown at any moment. And Dallas Goedert, he's one of my best friends, and I always tell him, I'm always excited for when he catches the ball. But you can ask him now, like, what do I watch when you out there? He always say, my blocking. So I'll be watching a lot of blocking too. So I watch blocking. I watch the handoffs, the throws, the catches, all that from the tee up to the down. But I watch the blocks because that's the game, blocking and tackling.
Avonte Maddox here with us. You've been with the Eagles since 2018. When you walked into that locker room, they were coming off a Super Bowl championship. I know you guys got close a few years ago and it didn't go your way at the end. To finally be able to get one after getting a taste what it's like to be around champions and then almost winning one a few years ago and now getting yours. Just, I know it's a simple question, but what does that mean to you when you kind of look back at it 2 weeks later?
It means a lot. I mean, like when you look back 7 years ago, they just coming off of the Super Bowl championship. Me, sniffing the Super Bowl and almost winning again. But it feels like you said surreal when you win it because it's like no other accomplishment that you can get that's higher than that. Playing in this ultimate team sport, and you go into you create this relationship with guys over the years, and you go out there and y'all are sweating and putting in the time, effort, and getting to know each other, connecting, and when you go out there and you can finish it with a Super Bowl, I mean, it doesn't get no better than that.
For you personally, right, you've been with the team for a while. I know James Bradbury got hurt, but he's been with the organization for more than a few years. And you had a lot of younger corners that were coming in that you had to kind of mentor as well, but you're still trying to get yours. For it to end with the Super Bowl with all the ups and downs, right, getting released in the offseason, then coming on back, just how do you kind of define what this year was like for you with the crazy roller coaster ride that you went on?
Yeah, I mean, all I can say it was worth it. I mean, when I have an opportunity to, mentor the younger guys, I'm all up for it. Because when I first got here with the Eagles, I feel like it's the organization, the culture. I had guys that mentored me, in and out from since I've gotten here. So, when I had the chance to, take a little step back and, mentor the younger guys, and help them any way I could. It was all worth it. Coming back here and playing in Philly. I love Philly, and bringing a Super Bowl, another Super Bowl here, and making this my dream come true. So like everything like played out well in my cards, and I'm happy all for it.
And it's amazing, especially at that position, what Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean were able to do this year. They didn't look like rookies. How are they able to make that transition just so seamlessly?
I say the same thing. Everybody always asks me, like, they say rookie, rookie, rookie. I'm like, I don't know. I look at them and they don't really shock. Like, they don't really I don't look at them as rookies because they know the game so well. They're smart. They got all the physical traits, and they don't make the same mistake once, and they open ears, and they always asking questions. So usually you got rookies coming in, they're kind of nervous, and they don't fit in as well as soon as they get there. But as soon as they stepped into the building, it was almost like they've been there for a while. And kudos to their organizations their schools, their colleges they came from. They're definitely pros as soon as they got into the NFL, and they made our job a lot easier. When it came to coaching them and trying to give them little tips on things, because they always had questions and they always had open ears. So Quinyon and Coop, I mean, they're going to be definitely great pros in this league, and I can't wait to see how far their career goes.
And that pick 6 by Cooper DeJean, that still has to just send a chill up your spine, right?
Oh, yeah, it definitely did. As soon as I seen him call it, I was on the sideline screaming, "Go, Coop! Go, Coop! Go, Coop!" And he got into the end zone. I said, okay.
And by the
that
way,
definitely was good.
Hey, both of them at the parade, I didn't know Quinyon Mitchell, he's very quiet, from what I could observe. He was, I think he may have been enjoying himself the most, him or Nolan Smith.
That might have been him. He's quiet, but once you get to know him, he opens up a lot, and that's what I'm saying. Like, when we've been here, we built connections with each other, and he got here, and usually they're quiet, but he talks a good amount. But right there at that parade, he was letting all his emotions out at that point.
Yeah, he was lost in the sauce. I saw Cooper DeJean have that chain hit him in the face. Howie Roseman even took a beer off the cabeza.
Beer off the head, I know.
But Nolan Smith, I thought it was the funniest thing, takes a picture with the child, puts him on his shoulders, and then starts walking away with the child, and is like, I got a child on my shoulders. Got to give that back.
You need to give the kid back. His shirt is drenched. He looks like he had got out of a pool. I said, "Was that all beer on your shirt?" He screams, "Yeah." Yeah, like, oh, God, somebody help him.
Unbelievable. Avonte Maddox here with us for the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. When you look back at the game, what did you think was the biggest play of the game? Because I have a thought in it, but I'm curious what you think it is.
Of course, Coop had a major play on that defensive touchdown. That put us up a little bit more touchdowns actually. So, but I'll have to go with. I'll have to go with the PBU stop because they came back out on the fourth by me. But it's not just that play. Right after that play, you came in with the dagger from Jalen to Devontae for the touchdown, and that I felt like that just took all the hope out of them of making that run back, because at that moment I think it was 27-0, I believe.
Yeah, 27.
And it was like mid third quarter, and playing against a quarterback like Mahomes, you never know what could happen. They could put points up on the board as fast as you blink. So, when that happened, I felt like that was the dagger there.
So that was the first moment you exhaled and you go, okay, the thought of Mahomes and him coming back. It's over with. It's done with.
Yep. Soon as Smitty caught that touchdown, I said it's over with.
You know what I actually thought it was? I thought it was the Bond interception because it's at 17-0. With 2 minutes left, if they go down, even get a field goal, they get the ball coming out of half to get that pick, and then basically, I know it wasn't a pick 6, but then you score a few plays later.
No, it's right there. Yeah, that was big.
That matched the dominance of what you guys kind of showed in the first half on the scoreboard to be up 24-0.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Zach, he's an incredible leader on our team. And, I'm actually just so happy for him as well because, he never really had the opportunity there with the Saints. And he got his opportunity to show his attributes, his abilities to play. And, he made the most out of it. And that pick was that can be in the line of the series as well. I mean, it's right before halftime. Come out on halftime. That happened. Then that happened. It was definitely a major play.
And you know how this works, right? When you go through the course of entire season, people right? Us in the media, fans, they'll say nice things, they'll say bad things. It's all play to play. When you had that past breakup, I went on Twitter, and every Eagle fan was like, I'll never say a bad word about Avonte Maddox ever again.
They love me now, finally. It took them a while. I said, oh, man, what happened to all the other 6 years I was here? Now they don't like me, but now they love me, thank God.
What is it also like? So I went to school at Temple. I lived by the Art Museum when the Eagles won their first ever Super Bowl, so I understand the passion of the city. But you being a player in this league, to just the fans, right? They're going to hold you accountable, but when you win, they celebrate you like no other. To feel that love really through the last month and in the last 2 weeks, just how do you kind of put that into words?
I mean, it feels good. I mean, it's everything. This city, like you said, this city is so passionate about the game, and what could you expect? I mean, it's a hard, nose fighting city, and they want the best out of us. They expect the best out of us, and we want the best out of us, and we expect the best out of us. So why not hold us accountable? So as much as they say they're mean things as what they want to say, but at the end of the day, if you're winning, they won't let anyone talk about you, and if you're winning, they're going to praise you, and they're going to let you know how much they love you. And, that's all you can respect for someone. It's almost like a family member. They tell you when you're doing bad, but when you're doing good, they let you know. So, I got all respect for Philly, and, I love it here. My first organization I've been at, and, it's been the best dreams come true for the rest of my life, really.
That's unbelievable stuff.
Other than when I have a child and get married. But other than that, yeah.
And then we'll get you back on. We'll have you rank those.
Back up on that.
Avonte Maddox from the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles with us. I got to ask you about Jalen Carter. We always know what's expected out of him, but he just sets the tone for the rest of that defense. Just kind of give me your perspective of him still at a young age, what he's been able to do in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, he's the leader of that defense. I've told him since last year, since he got in here, and I told Howie, and I told him, I said, y'all might have just drafted the best defensive player to play in the NFL, because he has everything that can make him the best. And he's smart, he's physical, he puts fear into opponents. And I always tell him, like, you're a leader on this team, and you're going to lead this team to a lot of more Super Bowl championships. And because this defense don't run through nothing without you, and that D-line, and he gets some boys going, and it makes it a lot easier for our jobs on the back end when the quarterback can only hold the ball for a second. And they trying to double team him. It's hard to do that. So having Jalen Carter, man, he's a dog, and clearly from Georgia, but having them all up there on the line, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, all them guys are going to be great defensive players in this league. And, I'm excited to see their career goes on as well. But Jalen Carter, he's definitely a beast.
You guys always had the talent. The question was, could you put it together? Last year, right, at Avonte Maddox, the team was 10-1. You win one game down the stretch. Obviously, now looking back at it, you guys were able to fight through that, winning a championship. Why didn't you not allow last year to really define what this team was going to be able to do the following season? Because when you go through what you went through last year, that could have derailed the team for this year too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you don't want to dwell on what happened last year. Every year is a new year, new team also. You got new players, you have new coaches, and things change. But the culture always stays the same. And, we always been, with our key fundamentals when connecting, and fundamentals and tough and things like that. But other than that, we couldn't dwell on the last year, and it almost made us more hungrier for this year, in a way of like, man, it was right there. We went that far, 10-1, and then we let the wheels fall off. But we can't let that happen this year, and we're not even going to talk about last year. This is a new year, and we're going to make sure we make everything right for this year. Lay it all out on the line.
Now, when you're right, you're right. You got to say you're right. When you're wrong, and you got to admit you're wrong. I was dead wrong on your football coach in Nick Sirianni. Why do you love playing so much for Nick Sirianni, who, man, all this guy has done since getting into the NFL as a head coach has been taking this team to the postseason. You've been to 2 Super Bowls, and now you won one. So tell me a little bit about Coach Sirianni from your perspective.
He's a player's coach. I mean, that's what all a player wants, is a player's coach. And that's a coach that, dedicates to his players first and puts his players first. And, that's Nick Sirianni. You might see him all loud and going crazy on Sunday. But at the end of the day, we want that. We want someone that wants to win. We want someone that wants to fight, and that gives us a boost of energy. And Sirianni has been here. He's been here for the past, what was it, 4 years now, 3 or 4 years now,
4.
and. Yep, 4 years now, and ever since he's got into this building, he's changed it, and he's a winner, and you can see that, and it's nothing you can really take from that. And at the end of the day, on the outside, you're looking in, you don't really know what he does with us or what he says to us. And me being on the defensive side, and he's more of an offensive coach, but he spends time on the defensive meeting rooms. He spends time to talk to us. He spends time to make us sure we connect and do things like that, because that's the number one thing, and not just connecting between player and player, but player and coach. So, I got tons of respect for Sirianni. I love playing for him, and, he's going to be a great coach always.
And I love the story of Jalen Hurts going back to everything that happened at Alabama, then what he did at Oklahoma and what he's done now in the NFL. It's nice, though, to see Jalen smile, because he gets real serious in season. And I finally got to see a smile after you guys won a Super Bowl. It had to be good, right?
It takes a lot to crack a smile out of him. He almost like Vic. You gotta keep poking him until he smiles. But no, it was definitely nice to see a smile from him, and I'm extremely glad he got the opportunity to play in the Super Bowl again, and he's gonna have many more. He won the MVP. I mean, he well deserved, and he's a winner as well. He knows how to win, and he knows how to get his players going, and he knows how to win as well.
Now, I'll ask you two more things. I'll let you get out of here. I saw Emmanuel Acho the other day on FS1. He was saying, the Cowboys are an Eagle offseason away from doing what the Eagles did. And you guys just won the Super Bowl. The Cowboys got a lot of work to do. When you hear stuff like that, you got to laugh at it, right?
Yeah, you got to laugh at it. I mean, you can't say they're this or that away. I mean, they got to have all the pieces put together at the end of the day, because it's not easy. I mean, there's times during our season where we had adversity, and there's times throughout our season where we had the tough conversations. But, you got to have guys that's willing to do that. You have to have coaches that's willing to let you guys do that. And at the end of the day, you'll put it all together, and you'll be smiling at the end.
Now, I love Brandon Graham. I think it was the worst kept secret in America. He was going to play in that game. Do you feel like that was Brandon Graham's last game? He's going to ride off into the sunset and retire?
I don't know, man. I think the way BG was playing before he hurt himself, he was playing like he had 5 more years in him. So I won't be surprised if he come back. But at the end of the day, BG had a wonderful career if he decides to end it this year. And you can't go. And what's wrong with going out on top? I say, hey, you go out on top. You the man. So. With BG playing, he's a great, tremendous leader of our team. I'm happy he was able to be it. I'm sorry, my dogs are crazy.
That's good. No, don't worry. We can't even hear it.
Yeah, okay, cool. So he's had a tremendous captain of our team and leader of our team, leader of our defense. And, he always spoke highly of us, and we always spoke highly of him. And, I'm excited to see what he actually does,
Last thing for you, Avonte Maddox, I'll let you run for the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. So from when the game ends to today, what was your favorite story since being a Super Bowl champion? What was the one memory?
My favorite story, walking into that locker room after that game. It was almost like a party. I don't know. The Saints locker room is crazy nice. It has almost like a party in there. You can have the lights flicking any type of way you want. But when you walked in, there were bottles and champagne bottles and goggles, and just feeling that enjoyment and excitement with your teammates that you have played this year all throughout the year with, and just being able to celebrate that moment with them. It was a great feeling, a wonderful feeling.
Well, Avonte, so happy for you. Really appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this. Enjoy the offseason, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you.
There you go. Avonte Maddox from the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Wonderful conversation with him. We'll take a timeout. We go from the Super Bowl champs to the latest mock draft. Yeah, Daniel Jeremiah has one, and also Cam Ward said something that I absolutely love. We'll get at all that when we return in a few moments.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
So Cam Ward gave a quote the other day, and this was via the Associated Press, and he issued a stern warning to any NFL team who may not draft him. Okay, you're either going to draft me or you're not. If you don't draft me, that's your fault. You got to remember you're the same team that's got to play me for the rest of my career, and I'll remember that. Now, we've seen players say things similarly like that before. Josh Rosen, it didn't work out. Randy Moss, Justin Jefferson, obviously worked out. But I like that confidence by Cam Ward. And I had a chance to interview Cam Ward 2 years ago, and the story is unbelievable. 0-star recruit, had to play at Incarnate Word, then goes to Washington State. That's when I got a chance to speak to him. And then this past year, here's what I like the most about Cam Ward at Miami. That team's not that good, right? And he's the straw that stirred the drink at Miami, and they had no defense. And I know they didn't get to the ACC championship game, and right, they blew the game up against Syracuse, but Cam Ward had a masterful season with really the only other player when you looked at that offense that really jumped off the page was Xavier Restrepo. And he's a very good wide receiver, but it's not as if that guy's going to be a first-round talent as an NFL wide receiver, probably not even a second-round talent, if we're being honest. So Cam Ward knows how to do more with less. And that's something that I like about the Miami quarterback. And I got a chance to see Cam Ward in person. I'm not talking about playing. I was at the Heisman Trophy presentation. And he's a big dude, but he's even bigger in person. And usually that's not the case. Like you usually see athletes because, right, when you're watching them on the field, they're in shoulder pads, and they usually look smaller, like off the field. But Cam Ward, I didn't realize how big he was. And I've watched a lot of Cam Ward football. And I know that he's not as big as this guy, but you know who he kind of reminds me of? I've been trying to think of a comp for this guy all the time. And the comp that I'm going to give here, he kind of reminds me, and I don't think he'll be this great, because I don't think he has the ceiling of being this great, but he reminds me of a poor man's Ben Roethlisberger. Like if Ben Roethlisberger and Josh Allen had a baby. It's always funny when you say things like that. If Roethlisberger and Allen had a baby, I kind of think the offspring would be Cam Ward. And I'm not saying that Cam Ward's going to be Josh Allen or Ben Roethlisberger, but I see a lot of similarities with the way both those guys play and how Cam Ward plays as well. And I think Cam Ward's, could be a good quarterback in this league. I don't know if he'll be a Hall of Famer. I don't know if he's going to be great. But you look at both Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, who I don't think are generational talents. If you look at last year's draft class, right, Caleb Williams went one last year. He would have gone one this year. If Jaden Daniels was in this draft class, he would go one before Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. If Drake May was in this draft class, I think he would go one. Before Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, talking about first quarterbacks off the board, not necessarily with the first overall pick. And you look at the other three guys that went in the first round last year, I wonder what the answers would be with Bo Nix. I wonder what the answers would be with Michael Penix Jr. and then J.J. McCarthy. I'm going to say, and tell me if you agree or disagree here, Stu. I'm going to say that J.J. McCarthy wouldn't be the first quarterback off the board if he was in this year's draft class. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I would agree with that.
I think Michael Penix Jr., even with the injury history, would be. I think Michael Penix Jr. would be the first quarterback taken if he played in this year's draft, or if he was in this year's draft class. Your thoughts on that? I'm just judging by your reaction. Stu did the whole, I don't know. I'm going to say that you don't believe that's the case.
I think he would not. I think he would go third still.
Okay. Bo Nix. Now, it's easy to look back at it now, but when Bo Nix was coming out of college, I don't think any of us thought he was going to be the 12th overall pick of the draft.
I'd say no. No to him as well.
Okay. So you would think that if you put Shedeur and also Cam Ward in last year's draft class, you would think only three guys would go in front of him. And those three guys would obviously be, right, I'm assuming you agree with Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and Caleb Williams.
Yeah, definitely those three.
Okay. So the one that we really disagree about is Michael Penix Jr. And I think it's up
debatable.
for discussion.
That one's very close.
Yeah. No, you're definitely splitting hairs with those guys. So that's a few things on Cam Ward. Now, I did see Daniel Jeremiah's latest mock draft. Stu, have you been stalking these mock drafts? Now, I'm new into my team being in the outhouse and not in the penthouse, and I've always I'm a nerd for mock drafts, but this year and the last 2 years, really more than ever, because I'm curious how they're going to lay the way until we get to 4 for the Patriots and what a lot of these big experts and all these mock drafts prognosticators are predicting. Did you see the Daniel Jeremiah latest mock draft?
I have not seen this one yet.
Okay. So this is Daniel Jeremiah 2.0. This is second mock draft. First pick, let me just ask you. Do you think it's a quarterback or do you think it's either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter?
I think it's a non-quarterback.
You are correct. It is Abdul Carter out of Penn State. Second pick, Do you think the Browns take a quarterback, or do they go with Travis Hunter, or do they trade the pick?
I think they go quarterback.
You would be correct. It's Cam Ward. The Giants at 3. Shedeur Sanders is available. Do you think they take Shedeur Sanders?
I do.
They do not.
Wow.
Travis Hunter is the pick here. And Daniel Jeremiah says the Giants do their best to make up for letting Saquon Barkley walk in free agency last year by adding the dynamic two-way playmaker in Travis Hunter. All righty. Patriots in at 4. Now, this would be a scenario that I would not be happy about. And maybe in this case, I would say trade down because you still have Shedeur Sanders there. He's starting to fall. Maybe a team's trying to come up and go get a quarterback. I'd be fine if, I don't know, maybe the Raiders or the Jets call and they want Shedeur Sanders. Well, Daniel Jeremiah has the Patriots taking Will Campbell out of LSU, the offensive tackle. He has the Jaguars taking Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, who I think is going to be a stud. And then he has the Raiders taking Shedeur Sanders in at 6.
Wow.
Do you think Shedeur is going to fall to 6?
I do not. I think he will be gone by 4.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I do believe Cam Ward is going to be the first quarterback taken. It's either going to be Tennessee or Cleveland, or if Tennessee doesn't take a quarterback, I could see Cleveland trading the pick, right? I think either Tennessee or Cleveland will take Cam Ward. If Tennessee doesn't take Cam Ward, I could see Cleveland taking Cam Ward, or I could see them trading the pick and just recouping a lot of those draft picks. The more and more I think about this, and I would not have said this probably last week, I think Cam Ward's going number 1 overall to Tennessee. I could see them taking Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, but I kind of feel like they're still going to go quarterback. It's so tough to pass up on a quarterback when you have the number 1 overall pick and you have an offensive-minded head coach. But also remember, you have a new GM coming in, Borgonzi. He's not necessarily tied to that new head coach. So that's a fascinating dynamic. But right now, you put a gun to my head. I'm going to say, and I don't feel good about this, by the way, I'm going to say Cam Ward's the number 1 overall pick. Then at 2, I really want Abdul Carter to be there at 4 for the Patriots. But with the Myles Garrett rumors, if Abdul Carter's there at 2 and Myles Garrett wants out, don't you just take Abdul Carter, you get your pass rusher, and you hope he could be similar to Myles Garrett or something along those lines, right? That's your pass rusher, and then you trade Myles Garrett, and you get a king's ransom back for him. So right now, I'd say Cam Ward goes 1, Abdul Carter goes 2. I think the Giants are going to take Shedeur Sanders, and then the Patriots sitting at 4. I would want, as a football fan, them to take Travis Hunter. I would hope they would take Travis Hunter in that spot, and you'd have Christian Gonzalez and Travis Hunter being your 2 corners. What I really want is them to get Abdul Carter, right? With Barrymore and you got Keon White, it would be nice to have Abdul Carter, but it wouldn't shock me if they end up passing on Travis Hunter and taking an offensive lineman here. So the way that I see the first 5 picks of the draft going right now, I would say Cam Ward 1. I would then say Abdul Carter 2, Shedeur Sanders 3. I'm going to say Travis Hunter 4. And then in at 5, the Jaguars there become fascinating. Do you take a tackle? Do you take a defensive lineman? I would then say that they try to give Trevor Lawrence some help there. And I'll say that they end up taking Will Campbell. So those would be my first 5 picks of the draft right now if I had to take a look at it. Now, just to give you Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, just I'll do the first 10 picks. I already gave you 6 of them. Abdul Carter 1 to Tennessee, according to Daniel Jeremiah. Cam Ward 2 to Cleveland. Giants taking Travis Hunter 3rd. Will Campbell going 4th to the Patriots. Mason Graham going 5th to the Jaguars. Shedeur Sanders going 6th to the Raiders. And Daniel Jeremiah said, I wouldn't be shocked if the Raiders decide to wait until day 2 of the draft to adjust the QB position. But I do see Sanders as a good fit in the Chip Kelly offense. And here about at number 7, 2 Penn State players in the top 10. I remember, right, when Brock Bowers getting drafted, I said the Jets should have taken him. I think they were at 10. They traded back 1 spot, and you had the Vikings coming up. Well, a year later, they would go with the tight end. That's Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Jalen Walker out of Georgia, the edge rusher. He's going to Carolina at 8, according to Daniel Jeremiah. Mike Green from Marshall, the edge rusher, going to the Saints. And then in number 10, offensive tackle out of Texas, Kelvin Banks. So those are the top 10 picks right now of the draft. And I'll just give you one last note here. I'll give you 2 notes. I want to see if he goes any more quarterbacks. Also, Niners in at 11. He has them taking Will Johnson, the cornerback. Imagine if Will Johnson, who was thought, I know he didn't play a lot this year, to be a top 5 pick, if he falls and the Niners end up being able to snag him at 11, that would be something. Now, is there another quarterback in Daniel Jeremiah's second mock draft? Kenneth Grant, 16th to the Cardinals. He's very good. Is there another quarterback? McMillan. Wow, the wide receiver at Arizona hasn't fallen all the way to 19 to Tampa Bay. Ashton Genty, 21 to Pittsburgh. Omarion Hampton, 22 to the Chargers. It wouldn't shock me if Hampton goes before Genty in this draft. It would not. Oh, he has Travion 3 running backs in the first round, 24 to the Vikings. Abuka to the Texans at 25. And does he have another quarterback? He does not. So 2 quarterbacks. And I think that's the right analysis of this draft so far. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll do a little overreaction, proper reaction, update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, the backup quarterback sometimes is an essential component to the team's starter, and the Panthers have reportedly re-signed Andy Dalton to a 2-year deal that is worth at least $6 million and could reach as much as 10. He and starter Bryce Young developed a very good relationship. The Blue Jays' Vladimir Guerrero is set to hit the open market in November. He and the Blue Jays failed to come to an extension before the 4-time All-Star's self-imposed deadline last night, and the son of the Hall of Famer said they did not come close to a new deal. The Blue Jays' version is they said they offered him a record-setting contract. Justin Turner has a new contract, a 1-year deal with the Cubs. The SEC has been by far college basketball's best conference this year. Currently features the top 2 teams in the nation, and Florida follows Auburn in the polls and meets Oklahoma tonight. 2 teams are currently headed in opposite directions, with the Sooners having lost 4 in a row and the second-ranked Gators having won their last 4, moving into their highest ranking in a decade. Also tonight in the SEC, 7th-ranked Texas A&M on the road at number 21, Mississippi State. In the Big Ten, 14th-ranked Michigan State hosts Purdue. The Spartans lead the 13th-ranked Boilermakers by a half game in the Big Ten and are a game behind Michigan with a matchup against the Wolverines coming up. I'm Rich Ecker.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach lets you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. All righty, Stupak, what do we got cooking today?
All right, Zach. So the Bengals, they had the oddest trifecta over last year with Joe Burrow leading the NFL in passing, Jamar Chase leading in receiving yards, and Trey Hendrickson leading in sacks, all while the team missed the playoffs. Now reports say that the team is going to franchise tag Tee Higgins and hope to get a long-term deal done with him, Chase, and Hendrickson. So overreaction or proper reaction, the Bengals will extend both Chase and Higgins this offseason.
I think they will extend Chase. Higgins is the holdup. But I think they'll get a deal done. And here's why. Joe Burrow is the most powerful person in that organization. And Joe Burrow's sitting there saying, look at Philly. Look at the team they built. They got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith already paid. Why can't we find a way to figure out how to pay not only Jamar Chase, but also Tee Higgins? So I think that push by Joe Burrow is what's going to make sure. You knew that Chase wasn't going anywhere. But it makes sure that Higgins is going to be back as well. So I'm going to go proper reaction there, that the Bengals will extend both Chase and Higgins this offseason.
The Tennessee Titans have the first pick and need a quarterback in a bad way. But new GM Mike Borgonzi has made it clear the team won't pass on a generational talent, leading many to believe they'll go with either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter first overall. Now at the Senior Bowl, ESPN polled other executives with 63% of them saying that they believe that the Titans will trade the first pick. Overreaction or proper reaction, the Titans will pass on a quarterback with the number 1 pick.
Oh. I kind of didn't even, I thought about the possibility of trading it. But I'm still going to say that Tennessee ends up taking Cam Ward. To pass up on a quarterback when you have the number 1 overall pick, it's tough. Now, Borgonzi could kind of look at what the Bears did, right? They passed on taking a quarterback. They traded the pick to Carolina, and then Carolina gave them a king's ransom, and they ended up getting their guy a year later with Caleb Williams, and they had other picks too. So it is possible to do so. And, right, we saw years ago, it was Tennessee who passed up on a quarterback when Jared Goff and the Rams did go 1. There was a trade there. So we've seen trades before. But I still just feel like Tennessee, there's some smoke here. Maybe I end up being wrong. I think they're going to take Cam Ward. So I'm going to go overreaction there when you say the Titans will pass on a QB with the number 1 pick.
Travis Hunter won the Heisman Trophy thanks to his incredible feat of playing both receiver and cornerback, though many don't consider him the best in the country at either position. Now reports say that Hunter will enter the combine as a defensive back. Overreaction or proper reaction, Travis Hunter is the best defensive player in this draft.
So 2 things. One, how I think Travis Hunter will be used, and then 2, I'll answer the question. I think he's going to be mainly a defensive back, primarily defensive back, and then there's going to be packages for him throughout the game where he could be in the backfield running the ball or, being as a wide receiver. But I think the majority of his snaps, like it's been said, is going to be at the defensive back position. But the way you worded the question is Travis Hunter is the best defensive player in the draft. I think that's an overreaction. The best defensive player in the draft is Abdul Carter out of Penn State. And not only is he the best defensive player in the draft, I think he is the best player, period, in the draft. Stop. Warren Sapp, cry. Stop. Warren Sapp, wah. Stop. Alrighty. Abdul Carter, best defensive player in the draft. Love Travis Hunter, but I give the slight edge to Abdul Carter over Travis Hunter. So when you ask me Travis Hunter's the best defensive player in the draft, I will go overreaction.
Myles Garrett has made it clear that he wants out of Cleveland and even told us at Radio Row that the Eagles would be an intriguing option.
The Eagles have been out in full force. I've heard a good amount from Detroit, and Commanders have spoken up a couple times as well.
And the Eagles, right? They're in the big game.
Yeah.
Howie Roseman's always wheeling and dealing. You could see yourself eating some cheesesteaks and winning a championship in the city of brotherly love.
I mean, we went there for a preseason. I definitely got me a cheesesteak. It lived up to my hopes. I'm not gonna stay too attached to any one team at this point. I know my fate is in my hands, but it would be a hell of a destination.
However, longtime Browns reporter Mary Kay Cabot says that this drama could last into the season reporting, quote, "I believe the Browns are prepared to exercise patience and let this play out as long as possible. If that means Garrett sits out some games, so be it," with Browns GM Andrew Berry telling us at the Senior Bowl that he wouldn't even take 2 first-round picks.
Right.
He's ready to dig in his heels and stick to his guns, end of quote. Overreaction or proper reaction, Myles Garrett will be traded before the draft.
So, Stu, you've dealt with an incompetent organization for the majority of your life.
Yes.
So I kind of view you as the expert here. The player wants out. Now, just because the player wants out doesn't mean you have to trade him. But Myles Garrett has done so much for your franchise. Myles Garrett is one of the best defensive players in the league. If it's not him, it's TJ Watt, right? Very open conversation about that. You can't go wrong with either. Those are the 2 best defensive players in the league, though. It's TJ Watt and it's Myles Garrett, consistently year in and year out, with now Aaron Donald obviously being retired. So Myles Garrett is getting up there in age, and he wants to go win a championship. Now, Myles Garrett is 29, so he's still young, but he's getting up there in age. And not like he's 33. So you could still get a king's ransom back for Myles Garrett, and your organization right now has no direction. And here's the thing. Myles Garrett only has 2 years left in his contract. So if you want to play these games and you don't trade him, I know you can then slap the tag on him, but let's be real. Is Andrew Berry still the GM here 3-4 years from now? Probably not. But there's 2 years left. You got a player who's still, he's not incredibly young, but he's young enough. And you know that bare minimum, you definitely get a first round, but I think you get 2 first round picks, if we're being honest, for Myles Garrett. So why wouldn't you, Stu? when you're the Browns, you don't got a quarterback, your team's not good, you got Myles Garrett, he's great, but he wants out. Why wouldn't you trade him now and get a ton of picks back for him? Like, that's my question. Why wouldn't the Browns, knowing that they're nowhere close, why wouldn't they just meet that demand? And also, why wouldn't you meet that demand by the draft so you at least know where if you get 2 first-round picks, let's say, you at least know where one of those first-round picks are. You could make a trade. I'm just going to throw the Jets out there, for example. I don't think the Jets are going to go get Myles Garrett. But you know the Jets had the 7th overall pick in the draft. Why would you wait till after the draft, still potentially get 2 first-round picks, maybe you make a deal with the team that is better than what they were the year before, and then you could screw yourself right there. So that doesn't really make sense to me here still.
It doesn't, because he's only going to lose value, and then, yeah, it's just do it now, because this isn't going to end well. It's not even like they're close to being a contender, right? Like, they're so far away. Like
the only thing I could gather, and why they would maybe wait till afterwards, and this is the part where when we talk to Myles Garrett, I believe he's actually looking to go win a championship. Some guys say it, and then they talk themselves into a place they know can't win that they can win. Maybe it's because the Browns go, okay, if we're going to trade him, we'll actually send him to a championship contender. So the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Commanders, the Bills, right, the Lions, they're all picking late in the draft anyway. So maybe trading the pick, now I'm arguing with myself, maybe trading the pick before the draft doesn't really matter. But Myles Garrett will be traded before the draft. I'm going to alter this question. Will he be traded by the end of the first round? I think that's the fair way to do it. And I still think so. I think you play hardball now, and eventually you'll trade him because it doesn't really help. It doesn't behoove you to keep on holding on from him because it's not as if he's going to go back on his word, in my opinion. So Myles Garrett will be traded before the end of the first round of the draft. I'll go proper reaction there.
All right, last one here. There are 7 new coaches hired this offseason, with the Cowboys being the only team that had more than 5 wins. The Jets, Jags, Bears, Saints, Raiders, and Pats all had 4 or 5 wins, though many had the Jets, Jags, and Bears as playoff teams before the season. So overreaction or prop reaction, the Cowboys, with Brian Schottenheimer, has the best shot of all of the new coaches to make the playoffs in 2025.
So the Jets, I don't know who their quarterback is right now, so that's tough to say they'll make the playoffs. The Jaguars have a shot. The Bears have a shot. The Saints do not. The Raiders do not. The Pats do not. And then you got the Cowboys. So I'm picking between the Cowboys, Jags, and Bears. Now, the Bears have a tough division. Can the Jaguars put it together? I don't know. Liam Cohen after Duval. That kind of scares me. It's wild. Even though I thought the Schottenheimer hire was the worst one, you got Dak Prescott, you got Micah Parsons, you got CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, they could be a wild card team. They could make the postseason. They won't win the division, but they can make the postseason. The Cowboys with Brian Schottenheimer has the best shot out of all the new coaches to make the playoffs in 2025. Can't believe I'm saying that. But yeah, proper reaction. All righty, we'll come on back. We'll get back into this college football playoff expansion. Also, more speculation on Matthew Stafford. More to come in 5 minutes. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So earlier in the show, we gave you Daniel Jeremiah's latest mock draft. And the latest mock draft, he had Abdul Carter going 1 to Tennessee, Cam Ward going 2 to Cleveland, and then the Giants passing on a quarterback and taking Travis Hunter when Shedeur Sanders is on the board. So that was his latest mock draft. In his first mock draft, he had Abdul Carter going 1, Travis Hunter going 2, and then the Giants taking a quarterback at 3, and that was Cam Ward. So when he posted this latest mock draft, someone said to him, what changed with now the Giants no longer taking a quarterback. And, right, you could easily say, oh, well, I moved Cam Ward up from 3 to 2, and Cam Ward's not there, so maybe, right, he doesn't like Shedeur Sanders for the Giants, right? Could that be a possibility? Well, Daniel Jeremiah's response to the person that asked him about this, and it was on Twitter, was a GIF. And the GIF was Matthew Stafford after winning the Super Bowl doing the little wave. So that's Daniel Jeremiah, who's a plugged-in guy, right? It's not as if it's with the draft, he's like the Schefter of the draft. But just because you're predicting things in the mock draft doesn't mean that it's always going to be right. But that has to mean something. So whether that's him just buying the smoke that's out there, or if someone kind of told him something, hey, monitor this. Now, Jordan Rodriguez, who covers the Rams for The Athletic, she does a great job. She had this in her latest article. It's not a given that Stafford will remain with the Rams despite both sides' initial openness to work out a deal. The Rams have to recognize that the most competitive path forward is for Stafford to return for another year and one more run while he continues to play at a high level. But the fact that Coach Sean McVay and General Manager Les Snead didn't overly commit to Stafford in the season-ending news conference basically signaled their open phone lines for a potential trade. Overall, the Rams will not spend big money or trade draft capital on a quarterback unless they believe he is their present and their future. The latter component is one of the reasons Stafford's status even remains in question. My sense is that many within the organization want to get something done with Stafford, but are also thinking about the ascending young group of players, including some with early contract extensions coming due over the next 2 years. There's a financial point and/or term limit the Rams are unlikely to cross, even if Stafford undoubtedly gives them their best chance to make a run in 2025. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like the Rams are saying, Matt, we'll rework your contract, but we're not adding on any years. So we'll give you more money. That's the way that I took it. But we're not giving you any more years. So right now, Matthew Stafford has 2 years left on the contract. His cap hit for this upcoming season is $49.6 million. Next year, it's $53.6 million. So the base salary with the signing bonus comes down to right now $35 million in 2025, just the base and the signing, and that's $38 million, right, per year, those next 2 years. How much more is he looking to get? That's the question. I don't know the answer to that. Now, Matthew Stafford right now, I think, is the 7th best quarterback in football. We've talked about this. 1 in my rankings, Patrick Mahomes. 2, Josh Allen. 3, Lamar Jackson. 4, Joe Burrow. 5, Jalen Hurts. 6, Jaden Daniels. And then 7th, Matthew Stafford. He's anywhere between 6 to 8 in the NFL, I think, Matthew Stafford still as a quarterback. So in that report from The Athletic, they are not willing to spend big money or trade draft capital on a quarterback unless they believe he is their present and their future. So does Les Snead and Sean McVay, do they view Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward a part of their future? I would probably say not. And then also for the Rams to get up and move up from where they are currently right now, where the Rams sit at the 26th pick to get into the top 3, or even if Shedeur starts to fall, the top 5 or the top 6, that's going to cost too much. So I think we could take off the table with the Rams, them in the first round getting a quarterback. That's name is Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. If they're sitting there at 26 and like a quarterback, I don't think there's a third quarterback that should go in the first round. But hey, Sean McVay sees the position differently than I do. So if you're not willing to get a deal done with Stafford, who else are you willing to give money to? Sam Darnold's a potential option. Personally, I'm keeping Stafford over Sam Darnold. That's me. I know Sam Darnold's younger. I know Sean McVay's a whiz kid. We just saw Sam Darnold in a situation in Minnesota where he was with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. You had Aaron Jones. You had a good offensive-minded coach. It doesn't get much better than that. And at the end of the year, Sam Darnold was dog crap up against the Lions and then dog crap up against the Rams. So why would the Rams go give a 3 or 4 year deal to Sam Darnold when they could just find a way to readjust this contract with Matthew Stafford? Now, if Stafford wants more years, I'd be willing to give him more years. If he wants another year, 2 years, he needs another year. Okay, I'm fine with that. But after that, he's 37 and right, he's talked about retirement. If you want to lock him up there through 40 for 3 total years, right? 37, 38, 39, let's just say. Yeah, I'm good with that. But I'm not extending it more than probably a year. So that, like, how much does he want? I'll boost up your salary these next 2 years. That's the easiest thing, I think. Right? Keep the contract. Remember what Tyreek Hill happened with the Dolphins? He got a new deal, sort of. Wasn't more years. But they just boosted up the money on the years that were there now. So that's what you could do here. But is Stafford willing to do that? But if it comes down to giving maybe Stafford an extra year or two that you don't want to, or paying Sam Darnold, I'm doing that with Stafford. That's number one. Here's the other one. What about Aaron Rodgers? Now, I know Aaron Rodgers, right? 2 years ago, Achilles injury. This past year, slow start, fine finish. Rodgers probably only looking to play another year. Do you just get rid of Stafford, get some capital back for him, and you go to Rodgers for a year? Now, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, but I think right now Stafford's the better quarterback. And that means that you're putting all your chips in for 1 year to go win a Super Bowl when Aaron Rodgers, when he was with the Green Bay Packers at the end, had multiple opportunities to get to the Super Bowl with the good team and couldn't get the job done. So I would prefer paying Stafford, but Stu, Rodgers for a year, it does make you pause for a second, and it makes you at least think about it. Right? Doesn't it? What would you do there?
I mean, I'd rather have Stafford at this point.
Same. I would too.
But if not, it's probably the best. It's probably the best of the options for them because, like you said, I don't think they're going to get high enough in the draft to get one of these 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah. So if Stafford's not willing to play a decently fair game with the contract, I'm not paying Darnold. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, stop. Kirk Cousins, stop. If it means that you just got to go stopgap for a year that you could still win with, I don't think you win a Super Bowl with Rodgers. But that only gives you 1 year. Like, Stafford go play for another 2 to 3 years. I was talking to Herm Edwards over the weekend. And I was talking to him when I was hosted on WFAM. And I asked Herm about Stafford, and he goes, I don't get why the Rams would trade him. But he goes, if they do, and we were talking about the Giants, right, talking to New York audience then, send the jet for him. And I go, even at 37? And he goes, yeah, I get it. 37's up there in age, but we've seen quarterbacks play into their mid to late 30s and even early 40s. So if you're bringing in Stafford, you're at least getting 2 years. You could get a third year from him. Because I think if Stafford gets traded, the new team is at least going to tack on another year to that contract. But once again, I go back to this. The Rams should want to bring him back, and Stafford should want to come back. Because if you're Matthew Stafford and you say, hey, the Rams aren't giving me what I want, screw them, I won them a championship, I'm out. Where you going? Where you going where you have a chance to win another Super Bowl? Giants, you're not winning a Super Bowl. The Jets, you're not winning a Super Bowl. Even if you get traded to Pittsburgh, you're not winning a Super Bowl. So when you look for Matthew Stafford and the Rams and Matthew Stafford have to get in a room and they have to iron this out. Whether it's just giving him more money on these final 2 years of his contract, or even if it's giving him an extra year or 2 on that deal that he has right now, where you may regret it, but in this next 2 years, you got a chance to go win another Super Bowl. You do. And think about what happens when you get a second Super Bowl. Like, we all love McVay. McVay gets a second Super Bowl, it takes you to a different level. Matthew Stafford, you get a second Super Bowl, it takes you to a different level. And that Rams team is right there at the end up against Philadelphia in the snow. So why would the Rams move on from Stafford over money? And why would Stafford leave the Rams? And if it's about money, you could find a way to meet in the middle. You could find a way to make both parties happy. Because the alternative for both is a messy one. For Stafford, you're not going to a better team. And the Rams, you're not finding a better quarterback right now than Matthew Stafford to go take advantage of whatever window this group has left, which I still think is a Super Bowl window. And you could find a way, and you never know if you get that quarterback again if he walks out the door. So I think they got to get a deal done here. Both parties. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. So Ross Dellinger had this article out yesterday. And he talked about, right, the SEC and the Big Ten are hunkering down to expand the college football playoff. Right, you need to have that new deal for 2026 where you have the expiration date. And we already saw last year the expansion to 12 teams. So you saw expansion to 12 teams. For the regular season, I think it worked because everyone stubbed their toe. The actual college football playoff this year, I didn't think it was that great. The build-up to it was fun, but the first round game stunk. The second round game, you had that good one between Texas and Arizona State at the end. You know, outside of that, the games weren't good. And then the semifinals, you had a good game between Texas and Ohio State. Notre Dame, Penn State was good. And the national championship game, it looked like it was going to be a blowout. And then Notre Dame made a little bit of a comeback, and then Jeremiah Smith in single coverage down the right sideline, ball game, dunzo, good night. National championship for Will Howard, Jeremiah Smith, and also Ryan Day. So really, right, I don't think there was another game. You had 4 good games. Texas, Arizona State, which that was really fun. Then you had the 2 semifinal games, and then the national championship game. Slow start, but it gave you a reason to watch at the end. And that was my biggest thing. Because even when we only had a 4-team playoff, the semifinal games sucked then. And I never really felt, or rarely did I feel, that we needed more teams in the college football playoff. But I knew inevitably it would expand. And I said if I was expanding, I would only go to 6 or 8 teams. And I knew they would go more because they're greedy. And the first jump was from 4 to 12. So when you go from 4 to 12, you know eventually they'll add on a few more teams. So here are the 2 formats that they're discussing. And both would behoove the SEC and the Big Ten. Because, right, they're the big players in college football. 14-team format. 4 SEC teams, automatic bids. 4 Big Ten teams, automatic bids. 2 ACC teams, automatic bids. 2 Big 12 teams, automatic bid. And then 1 automatic bid to a non-Power 5 conference champ. And basically that last spot to get to 12 would usually be reserved for Notre Dame. And then if Notre Dame isn't up to par, then it would just go to someone else at large. In a 16-team format, well, before we get to 16, in a 14-team format, you have 2 buys. In a 16-team format, 4 SEC spots, 4 Big 10 spots, 2 ACC, 2 Big 12, 1 non-Power 5, and then 3 at-large spots, no buys. I don't like that format. I don't. I think you at least have to have a buy somewhere, and you have 2 buys here in the 14. 4 could be too many in the 12, but then you're adding 2 more teams, which I don't love. But in a 14, I don't want to take away really much from the regular season. If you don't even have the SEC and the Big Ten, and hey, you could say, well, whoever wins the SEC and the Big Ten, they're going to get the buys anyway. But you at least got to give me more incentive in the regular season. If you just go to 16 and it's a free-for-all, everyone gets in and there's no buys, I don't love that. And then also the note in this article, conference championship weekend for the Big Ten and then also for the SEC. Since 1 and 2 are going to be in because you get 4 spots guaranteed, they would then do a play-in. Potentially 3 plays 6 and 4 plays 5 in the Big Ten and the SEC to determine who gets those final 2 spots. Not a fan of that. You play an entire regular season. At the end of the regular season, if you're 6 or 5 in that conference, you don't deserve to go. You don't. The one thing I liked about this, in the article it says, you could potentially see the SEC and the Big Ten play each other annually. So Ross wrote a 9th SEC conference game, right? That would be added in this because there's more, you could have a little bit more flexibility with the schedule. You could play most of the SEC where they stay at 8 in years past is because it's like, oh, you don't want to go up against our own and then you end up harming SEC schools trying to get into the playoff. But if they add a ninth conference game, a ninth SEC conference game would then set in motion a scheduling agreement with the Big Ten, which itself already plays 9 league games. The scheduling agreement, though, still in the discussion stages, would pit SEC and Big Ten teams against one another in annual games to be sold as separate television packets. So clearly TV money right there. If you give me SEC up against Big Ten, like I know this year, right, you always get like a matchup here or there. You know, this upcoming year, we're going to see Texas play. Texas up against Ohio State. If we get something like that on a yearly basis, now I don't know how it will work out, but you're giving me at least a formula of SEC schools playing Big Ten schools annually, I'm all for that. Now, how they devise that, how they determine who plays who, that's up to them. But here's what I would do. I would not go to 14. I would not go to 16. Now, we know they're going to go to 14 or 16. It's all about the money, right? That's what it is. It's all about greed. I think you're watering down the regular season. Now, I would say go to 8. That's what I would do. But I know once you've already got the toothpaste out of the tube, you're not going to be able to put it back in. So I would just keep it at 12. And the two things I would suggest, one's possible, the other one's not. So let's get to the one that's unrealistic first. In the first 2 rounds, you get a home game. First round, you get a home game. But the bye schools get a home game. Now, they won't do that because of all the affiliations with the major bowls. They won't do that. So here's what I would do. Because clearly it's going to be the SEC and the Big Ten and then everybody else. I don't need to guarantee spots, but I know the Big Ten and the SEC won't be willing to do that. So I would keep it at 12. And right, can't you guarantee 3 to the SEC, 3 to the Big Ten? So that's 6 spots right there. The 2 other conference champions. So that makes it 8. Then you get your non-Power 5 conference champion. That makes it 10. And then you get 2 more spots out there for Notre Dame and whoever. Like, that's what you could do right now. Now, it's clear the SEC and the Big Ten, they want to get 4 schools in each and every year. That's what they want to do. Because in this current format that you have right now, it could you may not always get that as we just seen this past year. But then the ACC and the Big 12, they're going to be like, hey, what about us? You know, we're the little big guys here. They're going to want another school added in. Even though, right, you saw the ACC get 2 in this year and the Big 12 only get 1. So that's why you're going to see it go to 14 or 16. If it goes to 16, it just becomes an SEC and Big 10 slobber fest. And I love to slobber over the SEC and the Big 10, don't get me wrong. But you're already guaranteeing 4 spots in the 14 or 16 team format. So then if you tell me in the 16, there's 4 SEC, 4 Big 10, 2 ACC, 2 Big 12, 1 non-Power 5, and then 3 at-large spots. So what is it always going to be? Notre Dame, and then the other 2 spots will be 1 SEC, 1 Big 10? I don't need to see 5 SEC and 5 Big 10 teams in. I don't. So if I was running this, I would keep it at 12, and then I wouldn't guarantee a bye to your 4 highest-ranked conference champions. But if you're one of those 5 schools that get in because you won your conference championship, you just get to be a top 8 seed. That's the only thing I'll put in. So therefore, right, you may not get a bye, but at least you get a home game if you don't get a bye. So that's what I would do. But I think they're going to go to either 14 or 16 according to this reporting. And if that's the case, I'm hoping for the smaller number of 14, but it's just watering down the product in my opinion. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We'll talk some quarterbacks next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Fun show so far. Appreciate Avonte Maddox from the Philadelphia Eagles joining us at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Coming up tomorrow, Cooper DeJean is going to join us from the Philadelphia Eagles. So we're looking forward to that conversation with Cooper DeJean, who had the big pick six for the Eagles. Made it 17-0 in the game. So we will have Cooper on tomorrow, and good stuff with Avonte Maddox from earlier today. If you missed any of it, you could use the rewind function on the free Odyssey app, and you could just go back to today's episode from 4 p.m. Eastern Time, or you could catch it on our YouTube page as well, where we'll have the entire interview uploaded. Or if you need another option, you go to my Twitter page, at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, and I have a link right in my bio. Make sure you follow when you're there, obviously, Twitter, Instagram. But I got a link in my bio that goes directly to our podcast feed, where you could find all of our segments that we do have for you right here on the Infinity Sports Network for our show. Alrighty, without further ado, Stu, give me some NFL music, And Stu has put together a list of a bunch of quarterbacks, and he's going to have me pick which quarterback would I rather have for this upcoming season of 2025. What do we got?
All right, first up, Trevor Lawrence or Kyler Murray?
It's a good one because both have kind of been defined by injuries so far. Up and down play. I'm going to say Trevor Lawrence. I just think he's the better player. And I look at him the last 2 years. It's been disappointing, but he hasn't fully been healthy. I know the same could be said for Kyler Murray, but I just think the ceiling is higher for Trevor Lawrence, and he's a bigger quarterback. I just wonder if Kyler Murray is a little bit too fragile to play in this league.
All right, what about Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen?
That's the most controversial one, I think, these days. It's a very heated conversation. I go, even though I'm going to say Josh. And the difference for me is two things. One, Josh has now defeated Lamar twice in the postseason. And then number two, I know that Lamar had 40-something touchdown passes this year, but I just think Josh is more valuable to his team than Lamar, and it's slightly in this tiebreaker. I have Lamar as the third best quarterback in the league, and Josh is the second best quarterback in the league. Josh Allen has a lot less around him. That's good offensive line, don't get me wrong, but you got James Cook as your best offensive weapon. Lamar Jackson, I know this hasn't always been the case, but he has Derrick Henry. So I just think there is more asked of Josh Allen, and I think that gives Josh Allen being the edge slightly the better player. So I will go Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson. And Josh and Lamar, too, they both haven't got the job done in the postseason. But when the Bills lose, it's never because of Josh Allen. You look at the Ravens, I know this year not because of Lamar Jackson, but in previous years, it has been because of LJ. All right, next one.
All right, you touched on this a little last segment. Matt Stafford or Aaron Rodgers?
I'd go Stafford. I think Stafford's the better player right now. The better career clearly has been Aaron Rodgers. But Matthew Stafford right now is the 7th best quarterback in football. I don't even know where you would rank Rodgers right now. Because Rodgers didn't play 2 years ago because of the injury. And this past year, slow start, good finish. Like right now, if you're telling me quarterbacks in the NFL going into 2025, Mahomes 1, Allen 2, Lamar Jackson 3, Joe Burrow 4, Jalen Hurts 5, Jaden Daniels 6, Matthew Stafford 7. Then the conversation opens. If you ask me tomorrow, would I rather have C.J. Stroud or Aaron Rodgers for the first game of 2025? I'd rather have C.J. Stroud. And I'll throw one. You know what, Stu? I just gave you 8 names. Mahomes, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Matthew Stafford, C.J. Stroud. I started to do a draft today. That's what I'm looking down on my screen. Of my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. I left the 10th spot open, but I did put a 9th name in there. Who do you think the 9th name is if I'm telling you it's not Aaron Rodgers?
Jordan Love?
It is not Jordan Love.
Is it Justin Herbert?
It is not Justin Herbert. I considered Herbert. I considered Love. I considered Rodgers. And a few others. But who do you think that other guy is? It's an underrated name. Guy had a wonderful season, though. He's been really good the last 2 years. Got
really
anything?
Good the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. I don't think people realized how many touchdown passes.
Oh, Baker Mayfield.
Year, right?
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield threw for 4,500 yards this past year, completed almost 72% of his passes and threw for 41 touchdowns. Right? Going into next year, would you rather have Baker Mayfield or Aaron Rodgers?
Baker Mayfield.
And then the 10th spot, I think it's up for debate. Like you could talk about Dak. You could talk about Tua. You could talk about Justin Herbert. You could talk about Aaron Rodgers. Right? There's a lot of guys there that you could talk about. But I think it's obvious that right now, Matthew Stafford is the better quarterback for next season than Aaron Rodgers. So I go Stafford over Rodgers.
All right, what about Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts?
I'm going to go Jalen Hurts. Now, Jaden Daniels had an unbelievable season. Maybe before Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl MVP, you would say that it is Jaden Daniels, right? And Jaden Daniels is an electrifying, stupendous player. I just got to see more. And I've been a huge fan of Jaden Daniels. I wanted my team to be able to get him in the draft. Now, I'm okay with them end up getting Drake May, more than okay with them getting Drake May, but I wanted them to go get Jaden Daniels, and it ended up that was not the case with Jaden Daniels going 2 and then Drake May going 3. But with that being said, Daniels or Hurts, I just got to see what happens from year 1 to year 2 with Jaden Daniels, because last year, right, we were talking about C.J. Stroud as a top 5 quarterback in the league, and C.J. Stroud was fine this year, but he wasn't as great as what he was the year before. And Jalen Hurts now has been to 2 Super Bowls and outplayed Mahomes twice in the big game. So I will go Jalen Hurts over Jaden Daniels. What is the next team? What happened to the music, by the way?
Yeah, the computer kind of malfunctioned.
Oh, so we had
weirdly.
a malfunction?
Yeah, the program just closed.
We're like the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. We're a no-show on this radio program.
Put it on the flip side.
Yeah, it's all right. We have been a technical disaster, I feel like, for the last month. There we go.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah. Someone's trying to sabotage my show.
I think so. That's got to be it.
Yeah, that's what it is. I think Ack's playing games. He's playing games. You have to know good. You got a mischievous look on your face.
Ack's playing with the computer.
Yeah. It's not my fault. It's always someone else's fault. Okay. Next one. Go ahead.
All right, what about between the 2 rookies, Drake May or Caleb Williams?
Drake May. Drake May was the better football player last year over Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams in a solid situation. We'll see what happens with Ben Johnson. But Drake May did more with less. So I will go with Drake May, and I think he's a better leader.
All right, what about Dak Prescott or Tua Tagovailoa?
This is the toughest one. Because Tua showed his value this year when he missed games because the Dolphins sucked without him. And also, you can say the same with Dak Prescott, right? Getting hurt, too. Oh, that's so tough. I'm going to go Tua just because he's younger. And I know it's like a cop-out answer, but I think we've seen the best version of Dak Prescott already. I don't think that Tua gets that much better than what we've already seen, but maybe with a little bit more time, and if he could stay healthy, there's a higher gear. But I think they're very similar quarterbacks. Both are highly paid. Both are good, but I don't think either are great. I would slightly go Tua over Dak, but if you ask me that question tomorrow, I could say potentially Dak over Tua. Next one.
All right, what about Russell Wilson or Justin Fields?
Easy. Justin Fields. And I know that the Steelers had this decision this year, and they ended up going back to Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, he's a fine quarterback in this league. I would rather take the gamble on a younger Justin Fields and then see what Justin Fields can become for an entirety of the season. So that's the way that I answer that. Younger, and I still don't know what he could be as a quarterback, where I know Russ is going to be fine. He's not a top 10 quarterback anymore in this league, but you're not going to end up winning anything of significance with Russell Wilson anymore.
What about Jordan Love or C.J. Stroud?
Besides Dak or Tua, that could then be the next toughest one. I'm going to say Stroud. I just think there's been a more consistent product the last 2 years compared to Jordan Love. Jordan Love, the first half of that first year as a starter, he wasn't good. Then he was sensational down the stretch with 20 touchdowns, 1 interception. This past year, I think that the Packers learned they need to go get a bona fide number 1 wide receiver because this by committee, it could work, but it doesn't work to the level that you need to go win a championship. But I would go C.J. Stroud because C.J. Stroud, similarly to Love, didn't play his best in year 2. C.J. Stroud, though, still won a playoff game when Jordan Love did go home in the first round. So I take C.J. Stroud over Jordan Love.
All right, last one, Justin Herbert or Brock Purdy?
I go Herbert. I just think he's the more talented quarterback. Brock Purdy's won more games in this league. Brock Purdy has won more playoff games. Justin Herbert's never won one. But if you ask the Niners, you said for one season, would you rather have Brock Purdy? Would you rather have Justin Herbert? You know Kyle Shanahan would rather have Justin Herbert. So I will go Herbert on that one. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We'll take our final break of the day. When we come on back, the franchise tag window is officially open, and it goes until March 4th. You have the decision if you're going to tag someone. There's a lot of speculation on what the Vikings will do. I'll tell you what they'll do next. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, the Panthers need Bryce Young to live up to expectations, and he has a good set of eyes with Andy Dalton on the sideline, and that relationship will continue. Panthers reportedly signing their backup to a 2-year deal worth could be as much as $10 million. Vlad Guerrero and the Blue Jays failed to come to an extension before last night's deadline. The 25-year-old slugger will play out the final year before hitting free agency. He said the team did not come close to what he was asking for, while their version is they offered him a record-setting deal. 40-year-old Justin Turner comes to terms with the Cubs on a one-year deal. Plenty of good action in college basketball tonight. A second-ranked Florida will take on Oklahoma, looking for its 5th straight, and another good one in the SEC as 7th-ranked Texas A&M is on the road to meet number 21 Mississippi State in Starkville. And in the Big Ten, 13th-ranked Purdue looks to recover from back-to-back losses. The Boilermakers are on the road at 14th-ranked Michigan State. There's currently a logjam in the Big Ten with the Spartans a game behind the conference leaders in Michigan and a game and a half game in front of Purdue. The Spartans will play the Wolverines later this week. I'm Rich Hacker.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. We're the Backstreet Boys, and you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
So remember those two dingbats on Bourbon Street? What a way to come back from break, by the way. It is the Zach Gelb Show, the Infinity Sports Network. Yeah, I'm talking about Patrick Mahomes Sr. and John Rocker. Remember we saw that bizarre video and it looked like they were about to throw down, but you knew they actually weren't going to throw down? Because this is what I hate. If you're going to get into an altercation, at least get into the fight. Don't do the, I'll kick your ass, and then one person's in between you, and you start to get all big with your chest and all like all puffy and hold me back and all that stuff. But it just was such a weird video. And I'll give credit down the hall. Evan Roberts said to me, that's got to be staged. And then we found out that Dave Portnoy, who I love, right? Barstool Sports. I love Barstool's content. Well, Dave Portnoy, then a few days after that goes, I signed John Rocker and Pat Mahomes Sr. to a Rough and Rowdy, which Rough and Rowdy, they have like this, it's basically boxing that Barstool has a piece in, and they do all these events. So they've had like Jose Canseco do this before. Canseco was so lame. Yeah, I think he like faked an injury or something like that. He just did a money grab. Maybe the syringe fell out of his back pocket, and that's what happened. So Pat Mahomes Sr. and John Rocker are going to do a Rough and Rowdy. So, right, when that happened, some people go, it was staged, it was rigged. Or the altercation back at the Super Bowl, maybe post that, kind of sparked it, and then it came rather quickly, but then quickly you had a fight agreed to. Not kind of like believe this fight's going to happen when it does, but, John Rocker's probably desperate. And Pat Mahomes Sr., if I'm Patrick Mahomes, I'm telling my family, shut the hell up. The brother shut the hell up, and the father shut the hell up. Because Pat Mahomes is such a likable guy until you meet his father and you meet his brother, if we're just being honest. So Pat Mahomes Sr.'s had his fair share of issues, obviously. A lot of drinking and driving. So this article's out today in the New York Post. Pat Mahomes Sr. and John Rocker had a Barstool Sports paycheck in their eyes long before getting into a viral video. Mahomes, the father of Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes and a former Met pitcher, got into a scuffle with Rocker, the controversial ex-Braves reliever, while in New Orleans during Super Bowl week, and it was all for show, Mahomes admitted in court. It was a stage altercation to get publicity for a celebrity boxing match that was set to take place in April of 2025. Mahomes Sr. said when he was questioned about his trip to New Orleans by officials on February 13th, according to TMZ Sports. So there you go. So Mahomes Sr. is on probation, but received permission to travel to Louisiana to watch his son and take on the Eagles on February 9th. The trip caused him to miss a urine test, leading to his meeting with officials. A copy of Rough and Rowdy's contract was attached to the court document showing Mahomes Sr. has signed on to fight at the Barstool Sports event on January 17th is when he signed on, weeks before the viral altercation with Rocker. You know what? Dave Portnoy's a genius. Right? It's easy once you see that altercation happen. Oh, let's get them into a ring and do rough and rowdy. But how the heck did not only he come up with that idea of John Rocker up against Pat Mahomes Sr., and agree onto it on January 17th? That's the mind-blowing part to me. Not that it was staged, that they had this agreed to, and they got both of these guys to agree. You know what? It's funny. If you have Pat Mahomes on the show, you don't think if you said it, you could only get one question to him. But I think the one question would be, at this point, how do you defend your dad? I get it. It's his dad. He's always going to love his dad. But you have your father going into a celebrity or whatever, there's a charity boxing match, for Rough and Rowdy or whatever it is. And it's and that's what you're doing? Pat Mahomes is worth all this money. If Pops really needs the money, you could give it to him. But maybe they've had to disassociate in terms of those things. You see your dad, but you can't give him anything because he keeps on screwing everything up. So if you had to gather here, Stu, how much do you think Pat Mahomes Sr., if I'm reading this article right, is going to make from this fight for Rough and Rowdy? If you had to take a guess.
Oh, let's see. Let's say $100,000.
He's making $85,000. That's chump change to Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes Sr., that's a lot of money. Stu and I, that's a lot of money. If I'm Pat Mahomes, and maybe you just can't trust your father anymore, because God forbid, right, you cut him a check, then he goes to a bar, gets in a car, and then kills someone, that would be the worst thing. But $85,000, it's embarrassing for Pat Mahomes Sr. But I'll tell you, I will watch John Rocker up against Pat Mahomes Sr. I don't know about you, Samter, knowing that this was staged, and I don't think this is really up your alley anyway to begin with, but knowing this is staged, does this take away from this fight now that's going to occur?
Of course. It's all about the money. It seemed like at the very least, Rocker has this reputation that he's developed over years.
Of being a jerk?
Of being a jerk, and it was nice to see someone kind of stand up to him. And I mean, listen, Pat Mahomes looked kind of scrawny compared to him, so it looked like he could get his butt whipped anyway. But it was still kind of cool to see someone stand up to this guy who ripped my city, a decade and a half ago, talking about the people going to the Mets games and everything.
John Rocker's going to kick his ass, by the way.
I can't stand John Rocker. So I wanted to see someone kick his ass. And so now that I know that this is staged, it's nonsense.
Well, the actual fight's going to happen. And I don't know what you can expect from the fight, but that's an actual fight that's going to occur. But it's funny that you're at the Super Bowl, right? You are the father of one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and you're a former professional athlete yourself. So you go to the Super Bowl while on probation. This is one of the all-time great stories. He's on probation, and you go there knowing you got a fight in your back pocket already agreed to on January 17th. Nobody knows about it. So Pat Mahomes is probably sitting in his hotel room getting ready for the Super Bowl. He sees his dad, like a jackass, because that's what his father is, in the streets with another jackass in John Rocker. And they're about like two bulls going up against each other, right? And the next thing you know, a few days later, ta-da! They have this fight that was already agreed to. So, I don't think Pat Mahomes knew about his dad agreeing to this. And for $85,000, hey, Pat Mahomes can write that check in a second. What a bleep show. Seriously. What a bleep show. I feel bad for Pat Mahomes. Not Senior. I'm talking about Pat Mahomes, the quarterback of the Chiefs. I feel bad for him. Because his dad is a knucklehead. Seriously. He is a knucklehead. There's no other way to say it. Oh, my. He can't prevent himself from making news during Super Bowl week. And it's never for something good. Never for something good. And the Eagles were actually annoyed. They used that remember a few years ago after the parade? You have every right to do this. He's like, I'm smoking on that Philly pack. Gilly at the championship parade, who's a Barstool employee. Gilly at the after party for the Eagles When Big X the Plug was playing, he goes, I've been waiting 2 years to say this. Hey, Patrick Mahomes Sr., you said you're smoking on that Philly pack. Now we're smoking on you. Oh, it was wonderful. And the Eagles, use that as motivation. My, oh, my. How about that? Really something. I guess I'll watch that fight, though. We love to be entertained by stupidity. That's stupid. And Portnoy looks like a genius in all of this. Now, the franchise tag window opened up about an hour, 50 minutes ago. Adam Schefter said, starting today through Tuesday, March 4th, teams can designate franchise tags or transitional tags for transitional players. It is expected to be a quiet tag cycle with minimal tag options. These are the three he puts out there. Tee Higgins, I expect that to happen unless they get a new deal done by March 4th. The Vikings, Byron Murphy Jr. or Sam Darnold, and the Chiefs guard Trey Smith. I don't think the Vikings are tagging Sam Darnold. Now, I know, right, we saw Matt Castle once get tagged and then eventually traded for a second-round pick, and Matt Castle was sent to Kansas City along with Mike Vrabel. But I think the Vikings are going to let Sam Darnold walk. I do. I think they're going to let him walk. You get back a compensatory third pick, right? Third-round pick. And they drafted J.J. McCarthy in the top 10. They traded up one spot to get J.J. McCarthy. So we've seen Kevin O'Connell work with Kirk Cousins, let him walk. We've seen him also work with Sam Darnold. I believe he's going to let him walk. So if he's been able to make it work with those two, someone that he drafted in the top 10, you're telling me they're going to bring back Sam Darnold for a year? Could they tag him and then trade him? I guess that's possible. But I don't think you're going to get much back for him. So I really do believe they'll just let Darnold walk and they'll go, okay, we'll figure out the compensatory value and get probably a third-round pick back for him. That's what I think ends up happening. But I would be surprised if they end up tagging Sam Darnold. And I do believe that the Vikings are going to hand the baton over to J.J. McCarthy. All righty, that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network on a Tuesday. Coming up tomorrow from the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, had a pick six in the Super Bowl. Cooper DeJean is going to join us. An exciting white, right? That's what they call him, the exciting whites, with Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship of the Eagles. So very excited to talk to a man that had a pick six in the Super Bowl. And good show today. Big thanks to Avonte Maddox for stopping by. We also did a bunch on that Ross Dellinger college football playoff expansion story. It looks like it's going to either 14 or 16 teams with the Big Ten and the SEC getting a guaranteed 4 teams each and every year. We reviewed Daniel Jeremiah's latest mock draft and also did a little QB exercise a few moments ago. So that will do it for us today. Big thanks to Stu. Big thanks to Samter. You can always give me a follow on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. And we appreciate you listening to us right here on the Infinity Sports Network across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and always streaming live on YouTube. We'll talk to you tomorrow, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.